I rest my case.
Okay, never mind. I can usually administrative code though.
That's exciting.
All right, let's find our seat.
Get it.
I hope they get it too.
I like that location better.
Well, it also has parking.
Yeah,
It's on the main transit hub.
yeah. No, I like it.
There's a lot of good things about it.
Well, anyway. All right, everyone, we're gonna regather now.
She says in her
All
star.
right.
And she
Attentive voice.
I know.
She has two small kids.
I have two young
Yeah,
kids,
it
yeah,
sounded like it.
yep.
Our food's gonna be here in about a half an hour, so we'll have plan on having a working lunch where we continue to plow through this list. So, I know this next item, a staff right-of-way agent was vetted at the finance committee. I don't know that if we do this first one, the one underneath it, the 60% designs for the remaining segment of Bethway is a must. And that's just committing that we're going to, okay, we hire this right-of-way agent. I know there's enough work for a few years, okay, as on the projects we have, but we need to continue to, Bethel is the largest project, and it's gonna be a number of projects. And we need to commit that we're going to fund the other phases, or at least the 60% design, so that we know what right of way we need to keep this employee busy. Otherwise, we're gonna end up hiring and training somebody. In 3 years from now, we're laying them off because we don't need work for them. There could be situations beyond our control in the economy that we can't advance, continue to fund designs, but this position will pay for itself from what we're gonna pay in fees to consulting companies to do this work for us. And then we will have more control over the process. If we have an employee.
Councilman Elizabeth A. and then Councilman Davina.
I'm going back to a previous council member several years ago. And the comment that was made that when the mayor proposes hiring a body, the question is, do we have financial bandwidth to do it? Because conversely, when we have a budget issue or the work isn't there, then it is the mayor's responsibility to lay that person off. I understand what you say about this work may only be for 3 years, but in a lot of cases, people are either, you can find people that would work for 3 years because either they're winding down their careers and 3 years is the right window, or conversely, they're looking to gain experience. I think the real key is, are we upfront with them when we're hiring them? So if there's a net advantage to the city financially in hiring a body versus a consultant, I'm all for it.
Yeah, we were gonna do dinner.
Well, so my concern is sustainability of the position, number one, but then when you say largely offset from consultant costs, what do you have a more specific number? in mind?
Well, and they would do more than just the right of way. So we have utility easements that need to be prepared and recorded and put together. We have our engineering staff doing that. So we would take some things away from folks because we don't have anybody else to do it. We have a square peg and a round hole. The clerk deals with street vacations.
Yeah.
And it'll free up capacity in other departments. Not only will they do right-of-way acquisition, which is gonna be their primary function, but they'll do these other duties that in some cases are square pegs and round holes, because I don't have anybody else to do that work. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah. that
That's-
makes sense.
ping around, I think it was Councilman Morrissey and then Trent, yep.
Well, I was just gonna make the comment that, I don't see the city of Port Orchard contracting. So I don't think that we're gonna go down on projects, and I'm gonna guess that we will have additional work beyond the scope that we see today. So I don't have that fear, and I'm with Jay, that if something did happen, you just say, great, thanks, right? I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it's FRV or, anywhere else has to do, that if there's no work.
Yeah, the right-of-way purchases are largely, or most exclusively, transportation projects.
Yep.
Sometimes a you know, a sewer
I
easement.
don't think we're gonna have
And
less
other types of
transportation
easements
projects.
and things of that nature, but, it's, you know, by, the property that we buy is typically by, you know, slivers of land as we widen.
That's when we're trying
Getting off track because of that statement right there. What about the mobile pathway we're gonna be putting in along Old Clifton?
Mhm.
That's going to require right-of-way agent as well, correct?
That's a shoulder improvement,
It's,
right?
yes, it's along the side of the road. There could be near the Anderson Hill roundabout. Possibly a small sliver that we're acquiring from the HOA or that other one you saw in the project reports that we need to acquire the right of way for that roundabout. But yeah, multimodal paths also, and transportation and right of way. So yes, that particular project, there's little or no right of way. It's along our existing right of way. It's just separated from the road.
Okay, but in general, when we go, I'm not done, Sophie. In general, when we go to increase our benefits to our community,
When
we're gonna need a right of
we
way.
need to buy land to build a path,
Correct.
a street. We contract for these services right now.
Right,
And we've all seen it. We've been stubbing our toe a little bit here
Yeah.
lately, and it frustrates me, but they aren't my employee. You know, and we've got a different person within that company assigned to us because I lost, faith. Or trying, in the person that was doing the work, and there's a process to deal with that. But if they're our employee, I have a lot more control over the process and.
I'm not done. Not done. Now I'm getting to my real
Okay,
question.
then Councilmember Fenton is.
So my real question is. At what level of funding or grants, whether they're state or they're federal grants, do we have to step aside? Would our right-of-way agent have to step aside and allow this only state authorized or federally authorized
Good
right-of-way
question.
agents to
Ken's,
take over?
I see where you're going with that. There will be certain federal awards will have rules that Bethel is not planned that way, that they have to have. If we hired the right, if we could find somebody there's different levels of certifications. And those higher level of certifications allows you to do federalized work, but some grants have rules, there's all kinds of different rules and regulations related to federal money, and so there isn't one size fits all. And I'm not envisioning this person taking over any of the active negotiations we have on federalized project. That contract's been awarded. We've made some changes with that company, to ensure that, we have better outcomes. But this is really at the beginning, envisioning that little piece of right of way, for $30,000 for one right of way acquisition on Bravo Terrace. There's 50 or 60 parcels that slivers of land we need to get. I'm told it's 2 years on Bethel, and in Bethel phase 1. That's 2 years worth of work, I'm told, for somebody to complete that.
So we could see an expediting the speed of which we could complete our projects as
I
well.
can encourage an employee to get something done faster, much faster than I can a
Right.
consultant.
to.
Councilmember
Good on you.
Fenton.
Yeah, and if and when we hire this right-of-way agent, I feel sometimes there's a lack of communication with homeowners or the public. And so I would want to see that this person does a better communication with the public. And that should be part of his or her job.
But that's what I'm alluding to, that I can control out.
Well, and I got that, but I just want to make sure that that is,
Stated, yeah.
you know, a
That-
priority.
Always
of our
our,
city.
that is always our intent.
We're gonna do Councilmember Morrissey, and then I want to call the question.
Well, so I think this will help, because you said if we want to go forward with this one, we got to talk about the next one. And is that funding already there? Because now we're starting to really talk.
Yeah.
Dollars.
And it should be, it's, you know, all of the projects the road projects that we're working have to be in our comprehensive plan, and they need to be in our transportation improvement plan, okay? Which then in turn makes them eligible for traffic impact fees. Now,
And granted.
and grants, and so we should be able to fund these from our traffic, so when we go to do Bethel Phase 1, and I know this is a long-winded answer, we think it's a $12 million project, and we've got roughly $10 million coming in from the 1/10 measure, okay? And we hope that number's right. But, okay, of that project, some of it, there's a growth portion and there's the existing condition. The growth portion can only, that's the only piece that we can use impact fees for. Okay, so a percentage of that project, so, you know, it's prioritizing and putting those traffic impact fee dollars into that design and spending those dollars and keeping the future phases of Bethel going.
So while it may not be a yes, no question, it sounds like mostly is the answer.
Yeah, we should have, we aren't, you know, if the economy crashed tomorrow
I get that.
and housing stopped and I quit getting impact fees, I'd have a problem.
Mine agree, yes or no, I think, the funding for the staff member, that would come out of 1.0%, 1% sales.
For
tax.
that project, it could.
Yeah, so their labor would come out of those
Yeah.
dollars for, you said roughly 2 years.
Yes.
Ballpark, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of pays for itself.
It will pay, this position should pay for itself because we won't hire consultants to do
Right.
this work.
I encourage growth in the city versus consultants, that's the same person.
And I don't believe we have to do this today.
Okay.
We're in the early design. I think it's something that's in the bucket for 2025, that next budget, you know, and ensuring that the revenues are coming in the way we need them to.
Councilmember Trenery, and then I want to just make sure people are okay with that recommendation.
Yeah, just, I support it. But I also want to refer back to what Jay said. It is the mayor's responsibility to handle the staff. And our jobs are to say, yes, we agree, or no, we don't,
And fund it.
and fund it. And I'm in support of it.
So I tentatively put it under the 2025-2026 budget. Any concerns with that?
Perfect place for it.
Perfect place for it. That's what I like to hear. Okay, turning it over, you've already touched on the Bethel piece of it. What else would you like?
I think you could, if you supported that, I think it's just, it's future planning efforts. And wherever, you know, and making sure that it happens. I don't know that it's not needed in the next budget. It's
Right.
needed, you know, into the future.
It's needed.
It's
Looking
needed.
around the room, everyone, okay, future planning sort of thing?
Yes.
We're okay with that? Okay,
Logical.
great. That was our quickest one. Look at that. Down to 27 remaining.
This
No
should be- this should-
problem.
This next one should be pretty easy. It's the Anderson Hill Roundabout. We were in active negotiations to trade with the developer. They wanted to build our project because it's needed now, versus, their project, which is needed in the future. And it was challenging and they were wanting to be compensated for the $1 million that Eric was referring to move the power lines. And that was giving us pause because that's not something we would have to pay. Then the mitigation dollars came in from the SEPA mitigation dollars came in, that we can use for this project. So the shortfall to bring this to construction is only $200,000 now versus what was $1 million. And even if you said now, I read John's lips there. We have to procure a consultant to, you know, get us from a 90 to 100% design. And then, so likely, and we just have so many projects going on right now. It's not as much a dollar and cents thing as it is staff capacity, you know, and if we toss that into the 2025-2026 budget, then we would, you know, update the design, and I think we could be under construction in 2026.
Thoughts or reactions about this one?
Are we
Yeah.
paying for PSC?
No,
Okay, And we're not reimbursing them for that.
No, because we're gonna build it, not them.
Okay,
Mayor, do we have the bandwidth to handle this if it were to be done and we move
Because
forward?
well, I think we will be, we should, depends on if I can keep engineers and hire more engineers, but it could move slower than I want it to if we don't have enough staff and capacity, I'll be honest. That would be our goal is we're managing a consultant in the design in 2025. And then it's a construction project and we've added the staff in that area and they're doing good work.
Where does this one belong? Yeah.
2025, 26.
Thoughts about that?
You can always contact then if we need to
If
as well.
Right.
we can always punt it to the next budget if we can't execute.
Everyone okay with that? Looking around the room? Okay. So then I think you have a material
You have
for this
two-
one?
you have two pieces, and if you want, the chief provided a memo,
Oh,
and then there's the quote for 2 years of this service is $141,000. The Reader Digest version of it is, this is a tool that will help us pursuing vehicles. And so Jay shoplifts at Lowe's. And Scott calls 911 and says, Jay just left in his Toyota, this color license plate. We have, I think it's 20 of these cameras throughout the city, so if 911 operator puts this information in, and these cameras, can we let our officers know if they're within the city still, where this car is, what direction they're traveling, so they can apprehend this person. It's pretty unique software. We cannot use it to write tickets. It's really just a tool in our toolbox to be able to pursue criminals.
Councilmember Diener, Rosa Pepe.
So this will likely get people excited.
That's why it's on, and that's why I'm
Right.
here for discussion.
What other jurisdictions of a comparable size have used this? And have we
I
talked to
think
them?
this is brand new technology out there. It's pretty cutting edge. I don't know of anybody.
That many.
Okay. Well, I mean, it would definitely be worthwhile trying to talk to those who have, we can't be the first, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I guess
We're
we
probably
could be,
not
but-
the first, but this is fairly new technology, extremely new.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to hear more about where it's been employed, or
Great.
deployed in other places.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe. And then we'll-
Okay, so, public safety hat on goes, I'm fully in favor of it, because for a lot of reasons, not just catching criminals, I think it would be akin to, DOT cameras on the highways. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, you're gonna be able, or you can only see.
And the data is erased every 30 days. Only the police are gonna have access to this. It's not something we're putting on our website.
No, I understand. But being able to see something, the police would be able to see something.
It's,
Correct.
it's licensed, it is not that, it's not anywhere near what the state's doing. It's not camera feeds. This is,
Okay,
it
so
is,
it's not camera feed,
it's
okay.
it's
That
called,
helps.
we're called LPRs. And we have them on a couple of our police vehicles that we read license plates with them.
Right,
And
yes.
so our cops get, I don't know that we have them currently on, we had them on a couple of.
That's the technology they used at Tacoma Narrows Bridge then to read license plates.
Yes.
Very similar to
Yeah, for
that.
the
Okay,
tools.
okay, I got
That type of
it. I got it now. Okay, so that takes that off the hat. So I'm with Mr. Diener here, saying about the concern about big government. On that side of the coin, but I'm not adverse to being the first city.
Mhm. Okay, we have a few folks. We have Trenery, and then we have Warden, and then we have Morrissey, and then of course we can come to the rest of the table. Oh, wow, everyone, great. Trenery, let's begin.
So this is the, what do you say, it's 150K for 2 years. This is just the software and the
They come in and put the hardware in. and
cloud space.
They're
Who monitors it?
It,
And is it a
There's
full-time position to be
Nobody,
monitoring?
we're not monitoring at all.
Okay,
This
so
is-
we don't
this
need
is
any
check-
staff.
there's no staff involved in this. This is a fully automated somehow. I know enough about this to be dangerous. I'm not the subject. It is reading license plates and it knows when the 911 person in there, all these cameras are looking for this vehicle. And
Right.
and it communicates where it's at and where it's traveling, so that our police officers can respond appropriately. It won't work if they hop on Highway 16 and head out of town. You know.
Right,
it's
and
only
it's not
gonna-
just limited to license plates.
Will it
It's-
write
it's a
tickets?
blue truck with,
Cannot write tickets. We can't use it in that way at all. State law won't allow. It can only be used for apprehension and tracking vehicles.
Councilmember Warden,
My only concern is, while the retail is all in the city limits, the city footprint's pretty small. And meeting with the chief, when I came on council, and meeting on the civil service, having conversations. Like car thefts, things like that, I mean, they're hitting forward to their heads, they're going to, you know, and that's why they're using the city of Florager. It's just, it's in, it's out, you know, these retail shops that we list, they're all right next to, for the most part, county roads. So when they're stealing from these box stores, they're just hitting county roads. These cameras, only to monitor a really small footprint.
True.
Just to watch them leave real quick. If you literally look at every box store, they're right next to a county road. Even Safeway, for the most part, in Walmart, they're right next to the line in all county roads. So, $175,000 a year that we could use for a staff member that, I think would do little to track these vehicles or these groceries for very long, because they're in county territory.
And to your, don't disagree with anything you said, also stolen vehicles would help us to track
Yeah.
it, provided if the car's still in the city.
Yeah.
it stays in the
The air
city.
current, yeah.
Councilmember Morrissey, and then
And they
Dean
don't.
Ruxey.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm on board with a lot of comments. I'm all for public safety. That's one of the things I ran on. I had that at my business, things like that. I've also had people that have worked in the industry, like Target doesn't even stop anybody anymore, right? Like they just
They're just
are
Lowe's.
taking, yeah, and then it just Lowe's. So, I think a bigger issue for me relates back to where Scott started. If we're gonna start employing technology like this, the public can be skeptical around that. And until we have some kind of citizen oversight of how that may or may not be used, I don't think I'd be in favor. So I would say put it in future planning.
Councilmember Diener.
we're just off topic a little bit, but where are we with license plate readers in cop cars so that if we pass somebody that's
We
stolen?
had them in the past. I don't know that we have any right now. Where we really want to deploy one of them is on our parking enforcement vehicle. So that we don't have to chop tires and,
Right.
and the person that rolls 2 feet forward and put on the chop line. The reason we haven't done this is that for 4 years now, the state's bringing, there's a new, a record system that's coming for our court. Our court is still, paper. Largely, and data is entered into a computer system. I can't deploy the license plate readers and that electronic technology until the court system is modernized. Otherwise, I'm creating another step instead of efficiency. So we're not utilizing, the chief, I don't know why we've gone away from them. We had a couple of them. I don't know how effective they were. And it's more for parking enforcement. It's a better tool for parking enforcement than I think on the vehicles, because I don't believe we have them on any of our cars.
Yeah. So I talked to the chief a couple weeks ago. I was up in Vancouver and they were implementing a new system there where they could read license plates and as well see who did not have insurance. And as being a recent victim of a hit and run, and then my neighbors across the street hit and run on Tremont Roundabout. I thought that'd be great to try and do. We can't do the uninsured.
We can't do that because
But
our
we
state
do-
doesn't track.
But we can do stolen vehicles, license plates that don't match vehicle, those kind of. So,
Councilmember Chang,
Yeah, I think it's a nice idea, but I am also concerned about the potential requests for public records that may
And
come
And
in.
then, yeah, it's gonna get dumped every month. I'm hearing really isn't any support for this. I think.
Well,
I want to just hear, Councilmember Fenton, we just haven't heard from you. I just
Oh,
wanted to give you a chance.
I know a cop, I mean, without even that, technology in their car, cops have their computer and they can just really fast and put any license plate and get that information right back. And so,
but this is as they're driving and they pass a car.
oh, yeah, it
That
just
flags
says,
as
oh,
stolen.
yeah.
And these aren't, that technology is readily available.
Yeah, Burlington's using it.
The chief, yeah, and we've had them in the past. I don't know why the chief, we don't have them or he's not advocating. If he was advocating for it, I'd be presenting it if it's a
Yeah.
tool,
So
if
here's
it's a tool they need.
Let's do Diener and then Ward.
So what I would advocate is that we punt to a presentation by the chief on both the issues of license plate readers and how this would benefit us, especially with Eric's concerns, which I think are very valid. I'd like to hear more from the chief as to why this is something we should pursue.
If we had 150 grand, every 2 years, I would rather pay an extra 30
Two more.
and hire,
Another problem.
than hire an officer.
Yeah.
That's just me, I mean, if they feel that we have that kind of money laying around,
I agree.
So Scott, you're really the lone voice in this. I don't believe there's support for this, and I think this goes in the fourth bucket that we don't.
Well, I think you're.
Councilmember Trenary wanted to speak.
Oh.
Let's
Well,
just.
no, I was just teasing you, but I agree with Scott. It's very interesting, but I don't think it's anything that needs to be immediate, our
Right.
next budget item. It's long range,
So, move it
future
to
planning.
planning, everyone okay about, well, in a planning?
Planning or is it just going?
No, planning. I think we keep it on the radar.
I think there's a number of questions that aren't answered.
Yeah,
that
let's
the
see how
chief should-
technology.
That the chief.
So
should-
planning, learning, all the rest.
Yeah.
Okay. At this rate, we are going to finish this exercise at 2:40, just so that you're aware. I would like that to be a little sooner so that we can get to the ranking piece of it. So keep that in mind as we're moving along.
The next one should be a little more straightforward. I alluded to this earlier. We're likely only gonna have capacity. We want to pursue some stormwater grant, or a stormwater grant. We don't have staff capacity or the match needed to pursue both of these. We're gonna do both of these projects. It's someday. And I'm just really asking, I guess from you and which is a bigger priority, addressing the downtown basin or addressing the Flowers Meadows, South Sydney area, if we had to prioritize between the two? Go ahead, Eric.
VSS.
Sorry, what?
VSS,
So you're saying downtown?
yes,
Okay,
I
yeah.
want the city to full concrete, and, I want to get as many footings as possible before it reaches in.
Okay.
That should be.
Councilmember Rosa
I
Pepe.
concur that downtown should be a priority.
I agree.
Okay, I'm hearing around the room. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you say priority, is this for the next budget? Is it,
Um,
what is priority?
Well,
I think it's gonna, until we get the grant, nothing, there's no percent, so I put it in future planning
Okay,
and highlight downtown basin, just as a trigger.
And is it possible, if we are understaffed, write grants to contract a grant writer?
It's not, that isn't, we've done that in the past.
I know it's
The work-
matching funds.
Yeah, but, the work product we get out of them isn't what we get, but we're really successful. And it's not just about the staff capacity. Writing the grant's the easy part. It's managing the grant and having the match to make it happen, and if we, I'm just being realistic. Sydney South is a priority. I need you to, we're gonna do these one at a time. Which one are we doing first?
Yeah.
That's really what I'm asking.
Councilmember Trenary.
I'm just curious, I just want to throw this out there. I wonder how much emphasis is gonna be put on the Sydney South by the tribes with that stormwater running into a salmon creek. Stream, whatever you wanna call it. That'll be
I think,
an interesting one
to
to
Councilmember
follow.
Warden's point, it's bad everywhere. Our outdated infrastructure, the catch basins in our whole downtown don't have any real water quality element to it other than, getting the dirt out of it, in a catch
I know.
basin. So
I'm all for it. I agree with the prioritization of downtown.
And same way
but I'm just
with
curious.
Bethel, and that's why those, it's everywhere. That concern is everywhere.
Anything
When you're
else?
writing a grant, you're getting so many more points when you're down by shorelines and things like that.
Hmm.
The college's gonna love you more.
Anything else on this stormwater grant before we move on?
I just wish there was a way that the grant could include contract staff to manage it. Do they ever do that?
It wouldn't, we wouldn't, here's the problem is just, you get,
Overseeing the consultants?
yeah, that isn't the need. I can assure you, if we get the grant, we can do this. We need match, which we don't have the capital facility charge in place yet. We need a year or two of collecting this, and that's why this is a future planning effort, and the grant you're gonna get, the money's probably not available till next year, and then you're gonna hire the consultant to do the design. So, many of these large capital projects, a lot of times they're 10, 15, 20 years to, from starting it, planning for it, designing it, acquiring the right of way, building it. It's, probably won't happen while any of us are on, working with the city, just being honest. This is a case of
Yeah.
laying the groundwork, you guys are questioning, why did the council do that 10 years ago? Well, I can assure you, 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, why did they prioritize the downtown when there's this other thing they should have done? But.
So-
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to keep us moving. So
Yeah.
the future space needs, that feels very relevant to your.
Yeah.
And then lunch. Can we do future space needs and then take a lunch break?
Yeah.
We need more.
Yeah,
Oh,
we are
absolutely,
planning for that. So,
absolutely.
that we're continuing those negotiations on the building next door. And this is just planting a seed. There's a lot of square footage right here in where we're sitting in, okay? And when the community center is built, that space will be equipped and conducive to your guys' public meetings and council meetings. And I'm not saying you have to make this decision. We're planting a seed for you guys to consider. We need office space, we're buying buildings, and we're growing leaps and bounds, and this could be reconfigured and made into office space very easily.
Expect put in future planning needs.
Yeah,
That's
what I was gonna say, future planning.
Looking around the room, everyone okay with this future planning? needs?
I don't want to plan for it, are you receptive? You won't have a dais like this, it's gonna be,
No, and I'm okay with that. My thoughts are if we could rent that space out each Tuesday night to interested parties, that would be ideal. But then if this could become needed office space, then there's that too. So-
Yeah, but we're not renting
But-
this out.
No.
no,
So why would we rent that out?
we'll
No, the
be
community
renting
center-
that, we'll be renting
Yeah,
that
that's
space out.
part of the
Yeah.
plan,
Yeah.
is to use that.
It's available
facility.
space.
Oh, I thought you said for us, have a meeting rented out.
No,
No, we would
We
get.
might be displacing somebody who wants to rent it out on a Tuesday night for a
So
dinner.
John, you need to kind of plug your ears though, because I don't think that was the intent of the public, community, but it is a community space and you guys are holding a public meeting. Correct, and yeah,
Yeah,
But
Councilmember Rosa.
to go back to your first statement, which can consolidate this. This is a seed. This is something that does not need to be decided
Yeah.
today, just something to think about. Next.
Yes, all right. I think everyone is just gonna grab their lunch and come back to the table. Does that sound okay to everyone? I know some of those items are hot, so I didn't want to keep it waiting, so.
I hope they have our names on them. I forgot what I-
no, it's random. Random,
Yeah.
I have to remember what I ordered.
That is what you ordered, the chicken bacon ranch. It is a burrito, a drunken pork sandwich.
That's John Morrissey, that's John Morrissey.
How did you know that? That's
That's what
impressive.
it is.
The banh mi. That's you, okay. This one is mine. Thai peanut tofu, like
That's mine,
tacos,
that's
that's
mine.
yours. Here you go, Councilman.
I was thinking about that too.
Wonderful. Yeah, I didn't know gonna remember. All right, free in case of, yeah. Like, okay, BLP? BLP, anyone? I heard you did it. Anyone get a BLP? Okay, well, here.
Okay.
It's probably for yourself. I say, yeah.
I meant to ask for them in color. No.
I'll redo it.
Okay.
We have a side coleslaw.
I'm so sorry.
Salad. You got a Caesar, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Someone with the BLP, so I don't know. Oh, oh, yeah. There's a side Caesar.
Yes.
Oh, this is mine. Oh, that's.
So you gone?
Oh.
Still like.
95%.
Awesome, good for you.
I have bacon here.
Bacon, ranch wrap.
I'm not here if you're counting on the resident.
BLT.
Okay, you get to, okay.
I had,
Councilman Warden is missing.
and I had,
Didn't get anything.
Oh. Yeah, everyone's got it.
There's somebody making good here.
That's the back end.
That sounds good too.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody get there.
That's
I think
extra.
we're all set. Awesome. Oh, good. Okay.
Does anybody look like they're on the?
Greatly. Right back.
That code.
Well, no, she's. Thank you, Janine.
Janine doesn't want to give away that code.
For what? The printer?
Yeah.
What should be on your? Should on there come up? 1100 or something?
Nothing worried about.
What do you worry about, Jake?
Not much.
Those days are gone. Don't worry, be happy.
Not my, I wish it was my personality, but it's not my personality.
With not to worry?
Not to worry, I worry about it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
So we get to talk with our mouths full.
I was just about to say, like, I should have chosen something that was not so cumbersome. I didn't even think through that.
I can tackle this next one.
Okay, so let's,
Everybody.
the fund to staff member. Oh,
Eric,
that's wait for Eric to come back. Good, use that opportunity to take a bite.
Rather than a cleaner.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This place is so good.
It is.
Okay, I think we're all back now. This next one is fund a staff member for a downtown Main Street organization.
And when I first took office, I talked to them, this is John's topic, but I have had conversation about this really needs to be a groundswell effort from our downtown merchants. And to this, up to this point, they haven't been receptive to the idea. Because they have to tax themselves but for this to work, at least initially, we would need to fund a staff member to get this off the ground. Once we have it going, there's some money comes from the state that would pay for, I don't know how,
$250,000
$250,000 a year.
a year annually. So, I think some of that struggle, Mr. Mayor, has been the understanding of how it works and how to get there. And we can now see that that process is on display across the water. I'll make this real quick and easy. This is a future planning effort. They have multiple years worth of getting stuff in line, but I want to be able to start having those conversations and say that, hey, council is open and ready when that time comes.
I hate to drag it out a little bit. You go ahead. Okay, my mouth's not full. Can you elaborate a little bit on this? Because when I hear downtown, I'm always concerned that we're focusing on one segment of our city and not all of our city.
And that was essentially my question, Joe.
So, no city is a good city unless they have a strong downtown core. As well as the tourism efforts, and the dollars that brings and how that will benefit those outside of that as well. I mean, I'm here to tell you, Bainbridge did it, Bremerton did it, Camas did, I mean, there are many cities throughout the state and that is a requirement of the Washington, Commerce Department to get that done. So, yes, it is a minimal lift. And it will be ongoing, right? When we start seeing the benefits of that, but they will have the ability to have, self-sustaining, revenues of up to $250,000 into perpetuity if they get this designation. Again, there are things that we do already, right? You can reclassify some of that money that maybe we've used for chimes and lights, right? That we can say, hey, we send that over here, but there's a lot more that can go into it. That hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, again, this is still future planning.
Councilmember Diener.
I'm all for looking at this. I'd love to see a job description.
I have one because we hired an executive director over in Bremerton.
That'd be great.
Like I said earlier, I'm now the immediate past president of that organization. So
With a smile on your face.
Yeah, Mayor.
Do you want
I
to?
actually advocated for this, 8 years ago. But it has to start with the merchants wanting it. We can't force this upon them, or it won't succeed, and we'll be finding a position in perpetuity
And
that doesn't work.
I don't want to get out there and get them down that line if there's no support on the back end saying that, hey, when you get there, we'll be ready, right? That would be unfair to them as well.
The time comes, I'll champion it with you. And talk to those guys and do a lot of, this. I think anything that brings some money,
Yeah.
challenge states willing to put forward, especially $250 million a year, is awesome. I think that was a long dollar.
Sure. Councilmember Morrissey recommended that this be a future planning effort. Does anyone see a need for this to be sooner?
Nope, absolutely.
No.
I'm wondering if you also want to talk about it in committee.
Yes.
Yeah, just sort of like update it.
It'd be an
EDT.
tourism.
Mhm.
John's the chair, he can make sure it gets added to the agenda.
Great. So this next one is the plotting the industrial land in the business park. Go ahead. Mayor.
This is probably, informational more than anything. You have a need for more industrial land. We own property in the industrial park, we pursued a grant. Until that, we pursued a grant last year, we weren't successful, we're asking again. There's a gravel mine there. Who is that? Is it RV or Mark, you? Yeah. Right next to that, up on, that's our property. This needs to, the grant will pay for the planning efforts. We need to plat it, probably sell the mineral resources. And then when it's mined, then we'll have level ground and we can sell pads. It's probably just belongs in future planning efforts. I just wanted to make you guys aware. We're pursuing grants. It'll create job, we're not gonna build buildings there. Likely, it's developing the land, creating the pads that will create, jobs in our community.
Councilmember Diener and then Morrissey.
You led, there's a need with that. What has been the demonstrated need for that?
Joe Morrison and Keita could talk about this all day. The Navy is right now, for their modernization, they're looking for hundreds of thousands of warehouse space that doesn't exist. That is gonna go jobs, are heading out of Kitsap County because there's.
I'm totally comfortable with that answer.
Yeah.
Councilmember Morrissey.
Kind of unrelated, but related, our conversation, something came out of our last meeting, that I had another conversation with, a council member. Can I get a list of city-owned properties? This would just be curious, right, like what we do and don't, so that I can just better understand, and we say there's a demonstrated need that Yeah, I'm sure we have a list somewhere.
We've got,
Properties, yeah.
we don't have much that.
Sure,
There's a few, tax, like when the sewer plant was built, everybody got an assessment. And if you didn't pay, but they're crappy little lots that are probably only valuable to the person that lives next door to them. They're not really developable. We've got a couple out in the Annapolis area of those types of parcels. We've got the lot down here downtown, the raw land that's in the industrial park out there.
Tremont.
In City Hall in our,
Tremont.
and we, oh, yeah, we have the corner lot by
Tremont, isn't there space up just around the corner off Bethel here too? Up behind, don't we park some stuff back in there?
oh, yeah, that's a well site though.
Yeah, I'm just curious on all those, right?
Okay.
You want me to list that as an action item?
I'm curious, yeah, it's,
Sure.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
curious too.
Noah may have a list like that.
I'm sure we have to have it for accounting purposes, I just.
Would you please put it in the now?
Okay,
Uh,
so
So
the, plot-
put it in the now.
just.
I heard-
We'll give you.
Just my
I'm just gonna
question,
get you
sorry,
the
not the
information.
actual
Oh, that's
item.
fine. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
gonna
Just
say that.
to provide a list of city
Yeah,
owned property.
But also the act of plating, that's not a terribly sophisticated thing to do. It's the improvements that will need to go along with it that we have to factor in.
Correct, and that's what the grant, it will, at a high level.
so I heard an initial recommendation that the plotting this industrial land is a future planning effort. I'm looking around the room,
Right.
that's okay with everyone? Okay,
Until the grant comes along, there's really
and
nothing
then,
for
yes,
us to
and
do.
then the dozen now is.
Will PETA help us with grant opportunities? Okay.
I
What's
mean,
the status of the grant now, Rob?
We've applied.
Huh?
okay.
Okay, back to traffic.
Hmm.
I know you just took a bite, so I'll say, this one is called the Update Traffic Impact Study.
Okay,
Go ahead.
this body of work is what drives
Yep.
our traffic impact fee.
Yep.
It's scheduled to, Nick is advocating that to start this body of work, you know, it's been 6 years since we've done this. And the cost of the projects have, grown exponentially. And, when we update this, we put the new project costs into it.
Thank you.
And it will allow us to utilize more because of the updated value that's in our plan. Will allow us to put more of those, fund more of a project with traffic impact fees because of the cost, the project cost has gone up. The rub to that is it won't make our development partners happy because usually things don't go down. And so, you know, you get, at the end of the day, your control of the outcome. We're just advocating that we start that process now so that maybe by the end of the year, first part of next year, you guys can be improving an updated, what's it called, tip traffic. Anyway, the plan,
Yes,
which drives the traffic impact.
I see Councilmember Rosa Pepe's hand, please.
I want to make this shorter, sweeter than the mayor did. This was an eye opener to me. This came out when I joined the council. And what streets were failing, what streets were marginal, what streets were good, was an eye opener. And having it updated after 6 years is probably a year or two later than I would have liked. But I'd say we move this to now.
We have a recommendation for this to be a now item. Any concerns with that?
And that's what this is.
Say again?
That's what this is. This isn't a reanalyzing where we fall with our traffic impact fees.
No.
And just-
That
will be-
that's the end product.
Okay.
We will.
But they actually review each street, right? That just isn't just the fee.
It isn't every street, and Jay was referring. Gosh, I can't remember when we did that, where the magic bus drove around and evaluated all the streets, but we got the ball and what was the
Yeah.
conditions of our street and
Like
everything.
2008.
That's not this. This is the capital projects that are in our traffic, in our comp plan, that we're actively funding and trying to build, they are eligible for traffic impact fees. Those project costs are rising rapidly. It's been 6 years since we've updated it.
Yep.
And we should update the study to reflect current costs. Some projects have been built, they come off the list, and then there's a process involving you guys. What are our priorities? What projects do we want to put in here? Which then it's a math equation. There's this many projects, there's this much growth, and it comes to a fee.
Yeah.
And, you know, you ultimately have to vote on that fee, whether you're comfortable. And then how you reduce that is you take projects off the list. So then you make a different group of people happy. on that fee.
Is there-
We
yeah.
need to have current costs.
Yeah.
To make
I think
a
it's a
more
good
So
educated
there's clarity
decision.
about what this is and there's a sense of urgency
Yeah,
I'm
you should have said
hearing.
that instead of me.
So, looking around the room, making sure I can see everyone, okay for the now, okay.
I'm concerned about Nick's capacity.
Yeah. Nick's asking for it.
Okay, so that's good.
When I saw bond here, I was like, "Ooh, is there's gonna be a bond for this?
No, no,
Oh,
no,
no, that's Nick bond.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, next up is this
This
ordinance.
is really, Nick asked for this also, and so is Jay. Some of our code as it relates to, just an old practice we have, is somebody has to be a sponsor before it goes to, gets on the agenda. And then we usually go back to if it went through a committee, we go back, and then you've got to sign the actual resolution or ordinance. And I'm not aware of any other community that does it that way. It's just an outdated practice. Also, on our agenda, our code says that we need to formally adjourn the meeting. There's some outdated things that are in our policies and code that probably need to be looked at and cleaned up. And I just wanna, you guys, I don't see any value in those things. And do you?
I'd like,
And there's probably other things that
Yeah.
I get that part, I do get that part. There's things that need to be said, like, let's say you're not mayor one day, somebody's up there overseeing the meeting. They don't like to do that,
facilitating.
facilitating, they don't like the way
Yeah.
that it's going,
And they adjourn.
and they turn it, and meeting's over. Well, it's,
The other
Yeah.
side of that though is there's an agenda and we can't. You know, there's two ways the meeting ends. One is adjournment and 10 PM. We, in our code says 10 o'clock. We go home unless the meeting stops unless you guys
Vote.
vote to extend the meeting.
Yeah, so I'm hearing you all starting to discuss the merits of the different components right now. I think that that's gonna be a later thing, but, Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
thank you. That's where we have a little bit of disagreement with Mayor. He's looking at updating what we existing have. I think it needs to be carried a little bit further and would like to champion this. I hate the word committee, but to do a little bit more. Gig Harbor, we have one page for how our council operates. They have 37 pages. I don't want to do anything like that. I'm just saying that somewhere along the line, there may be a happy medium. And that it would be worth getting rid of a lot of our outdated, walking the chicken down the middle of the road. At the same time, it's like, let's see what else is out there. This is one I would move to one of the committees to look at.
Doesn't really
Figure out
fit
which
anywhere.
one.
Maybe it's fine. I was just gonna
Fine,
actually
yeah.
task the attorney.
Well,
Look at our
the-
code and make
the-
some recommendations.
Actually, the attorney would be fine. Charlie's already mentioned that. She knows that we have this issue. She thinks there's some things that could be cut out, there's some things that could be added. We could look at it. Like I said, there are streams, one of the city that she knows has 100 pages of rules, how they operate, which I would read myself. So I think maybe having somebody bring something to us, maybe better than us starting at ground zero. I'm okay with the mayor well, I'm okay with the attorney at a starting point.
So I'm hearing a lot of talk about how this would be done. I'm curious
Yep,
about the
sorry.
when. Yeah,
When would be starting now?
now, I'm looking around the room, starting to look into this now.
It's not, I don't think it's
I don't think
terribly
it's
large.
pressing.
Yeah.
I also don't think it's terribly large project either, so
I didn't say.
I'm open, whatever.
Capacity.
I'm down with that.
I've got a companion item, because I think in these, our policies and how we, and if you pull this document with the orange on it, and they're the guiding principles from Sound Cities organization. And I don't really think it's guiding principles, but I think I'm calling it governance etiquette. And I wouldn't mind incorporating something like this into our, I don't need this, I don't think we need this on the wall. But, we're all coming from different places to the table here today. And I think we're all, whether we're not all gonna always agree on everything, but we need to have respect and, for each other and the job we're doing, because I think we're all here trying to do good for our community and make our community a better place. And I stumbled on this and I really like it. And let me know if you don't like it, or if there's things you wouldn't want in here, but I'd love to incorporate this into these revisions we're talking about.
I'm only using this as an example because it's funny, because the South Kitsap School Executive Committee came up with, I swear you had copied it from them pretty closely.
And they paid a consultant to do 3 days. I just went
Yeah.
online. and found-
Yeah, no, I'm just saying is, there are these things around and that, I think they're.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Something,
assume that we're all acting in with good intent, sure, no surprises, have each other's back.
This is the only thing I really like about SCA. I remember that PSRC, and they were like the biggest bunch of whiners. So this is actually distilled into a very nice set of.
Do you have
statements.
Yeah.
Principles?
Yeah.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
okay, so my recommendation, so we can move on, would be let Charlie work with this as her capacity, but I don't want to kick it down the road.
Do you want
Okay,
to
so
form a
how-
What I'm envisioning is if Charlie's looking at cleaning up our operating policies and procedures, that somehow something like this is incorporated.
That's what I'm saying.
And if there's something on this list, I think it's really good, is there's something on this list that doesn't, that you get, makes your hair in the back of your neck stand up.
I think we'll do Rosa Pepe then.
I would like to see it when she's done incorporating, instead of doing a knee jerk right now, the big thing is saying, hey, as you get capacity, please start reviewing it.
Councilmember Warden.
Yeah, I think, I like the respect of the no surprises. There's no need to make everybody comfortable. When we first came on, I think the 3 new people, it was kind of put out there to, try and ask questions before the council meetings, try and talk to the department heads, get those answers. That way, during the meeting, we're not asking a bunch of questions.
That surprised them.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Sure, they're not prepared to answer.
true. And if you need some data, right? You really can't ask data questions. Like right now, if you want some numbers. You don't have that with you, most likely. So there are many people in the community, let's get that. I was with James Rockland last night. He's saying to me, he's watched some committee meetings in the last couple months and how he really likes hearing questions being asked. Like previously, it seemed like everyone would just vote yes or no. And I told him, I said, that's interesting that you say that, because being on council, I was told that beforehand, that people would just meet behind closed doors before the council meetings, everyone would get together, with topics, and then you come out there and he's a very smart man, who says, I said, as you know, it's not accurate. You have all weekend to ask questions Friday, Monday, hammer it out. But with saying that, there are questions that I think if I'm asking those questions, the public is gonna ask those questions as well. So example, with Dennis, I'll email him a question, I'll get the answer. And then before the meeting, last one I said, just so you know, I'm gonna ask that question, but just, you don't have to ask in depth, but just if you just touch on it. He's like, perfect. There's no surprises, but I think there should be, if you have a question, you think the general public is gonna ask the same thing, those questions should be asked. For us to get up here and just say yes or no, that's not really helping the public understand if they're tuning in.
Sure. I'd like to recommend, well, first we'll hear from Councilmember Morrissey and then I have a recommendation. Go ahead.
I too am, I would be in favor of this, they're guiding principles, right? So we're gonna live into them as best we can. I want to make sure that I'm as prepared as, I do know I had a question that I caught somebody off guard, and sometimes it's just in the spirit and heat of the moment and learning something I didn't know prior to reading the packet. I will also say, not 100% of the time am I able to get through packet before Monday. So sometimes I feel like I'm quick on the staff, so I will always apologize. That just is the life of a guy whose weekend is actually on a Thursday, Friday, and not on a weekend.
And whenever you need to ask it, and you're right to Eric's point. Sometimes it's just making sure the public understands our process.
Yeah.
To ask that question. Yeah, you got your question answered on Friday or Monday or Tuesday morning, but it's okay to ask, hey, and then let that director, hey, I'm gonna ask this question at the meeting too, so that everybody understands how we came to these conclusions, is absolutely appropriate.
I guess, long story longer, what I'm trying to say is, none of that's meant to be surprises. If it comes to me at the spur of the moment, that's just,
Life.
yeah, I'm living into the spirit, right? But it just is,
Sure.
sometimes you can have that.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to avoid is, one, we won't be prepared, and two,
Yeah.
it's coming to the meeting and you didn't ask the question, and you knew you had that question on Friday.
Correct.
And
So,
you showed up on Tuesday and, you go to Dennis and say, hey, Dennis, what's the answer to this? And
Yeah.
or how many of these do we have?
what's the spirit of that? I think, for instance, my one that I felt bad about after the fact, but I didn't think of it at the time, when the chief gave his crime stats, and I said, that's great, but, and I didn't think about it till he's coming through here, because I was just like, okay. But I had no context, right? What does that mean comparative to other years? So I asked that question, but I didn't think about that ahead of time.
Councilmember Diener has a point. I just want to just be careful about language, because I think that Councilmember Fenton wanted to talk about guiding principles
And
related
that's a separate.
as a separate, so as you all are talking, how I wrote it down here was ground rules, because that's kind of what these feel like, and I tacked it on to look at the code, and I put it under now. So let's hear from
So
Councilmember Diener.
I'd like to see a set of ground rules. I don't know if we have them now, but if we do, I'd like to see them updated for
We need
public participation. So when you're gonna come and speak to us, be kind, be candid, many of the same kinds of rules that we should advise the public if they're gonna testify, to be nice about it, because we haven't always seen that, and maybe that would be helpful.
We didn't encourage it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't require it, but
No.
you can
Yeah,
encourage it.
I mean, unfortunately, a clan member can go up there and take 3 minutes and say whatever they want. And unfortunately,
Right.
we have to sit through it as gross as it might be, do we wish everyone would be kind?
So I look at this more for us. This is in our, this.
Correct, and
just us.
this is intended
Just
to
for
be
us.
part of this code updates.
Yeah,
And we
exactly.
incorporate something similar to this.
But there
Just be
are plenty of
respectful.
other committees, councils, commissioners that have rules of conduct for the public as well.
Yeah.
That's not unusual.
Well, I think we'll
You
get to
can't-
that. There's another
Well, that's
segment
free
on that.
speech,
Correct, and I know that at PSRC, those ahead of public comment, those are red, first time on the wall. It's the, I guess, the conduct rules for that, because they'll turn your microphone off when you start swearing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
So, I just want to make sure this is in the right bucket. You all said that as the city attorney has capacity, so we put it in now, but then it could move. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So what I put, you talked about the grounding rules already. If it's okay with you, Mayor, I just bumped up the conversation by the guiding principles because it felt like we were going there. So I don't know if I should turn it over to Councilmember Benton now.
You can, if you want, yeah, no, yeah, right over here. And just one more little snippet on this is, I always want to build freedom though, and maybe at the end for the good of the order, bringing up something, or if it's a question, to get back to me later, because sometimes we're up there, and I think maybe you mentioned it, something just pops into your head, and you feel like that's very important for for it to be recorded and be out there on, the video, so people can look it up or hear for it. But this is all just really good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, you guys know that I kind of wanted to change those guiding principles that's right behind us. And I'll say it again, why I feel that way. And we don't have to finish this now. This can be, it could be for the future. But I can get together with, a couple of my council members, and they can write something down. And then I get it back to you, or we do it on an email, just so
But
everyone has their own
we
input.
we can't do that.
Oh, that's right. So I get, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can't,
Public
that's true. That's
process.
true. You're right. Yeah. That's why I can meet with 2 council members.
You're not gonna, we can't do, you're circumventing,
do-
you're circumventing
That's like-
public process.
No, I
Okay,
think
our
what she's
committee-
saying
Or a committee or something.
is she'll do a draft with 2 council members and then present it to the council as a whole.
The attorney would strongly advise against you're circumventing public process. If we're gonna do this, it's in this setting or a work study.
Okay, maybe,
It's a
yeah.
body of work that
Okay.
is done collaboratively in the public side.
Okay, yeah, and then finish it off maybe in a work study. But I feel like right back here, are we raising the bar? When I hear that, no, we're not. We're not raising the bar with our community. It's kind of a open-ended sentence. So are we raising the bar in meeting our goals for better communication within our community or within our city? I just feel like that needs to go a little further. And then,
Well, can I just comment?
yes.
It's not just about communication though.
Well, then, and that's where you'll come in to say, oh, well, how about, are we raising the bar to meet, understanding in our community?
The only thing I would say is you want these to be quickly read and quickly understood. So we don't want them to be too long because.
Well, right, and that's
Structure
not
is so-
right. You
Yeah,
know,
becomes broad.
and there, it is broad, but to me, I feel like, no, we need to raise the bar better than what we are doing. And so then another one is, when I read this, besides, are we building, are we honoring the past but not living but not living in the past? And that's just, I like the way we do that because that's giving the, what do I want to say, learning history and then how we're gonna do that forward. And so we're still honoring our history, which I like that. But all these other ones I read are not dealing with our community. We got voted by our constituents. And when it says, here's another example, are we building connections with outside partners? Well, to me, I read that. That means outside partners that are outside of city limits. And I don't think I'm the only one that, is reading that.
Having been participating in this project, outside partners is meaning anybody that's not sitting here in this room.
Maybe delete the word outside if that would be okay.
Yeah, it could just maybe tweak a little bit, but I'm saying, are we building, it is important that we are building connections outside of the city, but are we building connections outside partners and within our city? So it's like both, and there you have it, you're doing out and then our city too. And then,
We want to bring this to a work study. We're not going to decide these today.
no, we're not. So
So,
we can think about it, write them down and bring it to a work study, but I just feel like this isn't addressing our community, our constituents. This is,
Heidi passed at a work that we discussed this. And she was told to add it to this list. And then she was told if it goes to a work study, they need 30 days notice.
No.
No, that's what we're telling you.
no, but,
We're all told that. No, we're all.
no, I was never.
I
Hold
don't
on,
know.
everyone, let's,
yeah.
Are you saying that no one did not say they need 30 days?
I've never been told 30 days notice.
So I think we have some process questions right now. I think what we're really here is tasked to do is to understand whether this is a topic that you all feel like should come up for a work study this year. Is it something that's, yes?
So Heidi's talked about three of the four. I'd say let's wrap it up with the fourth. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay, oh yeah, thank you. So that's the last one. To me, I remember saying too, that is the decision-making process positively impacting diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is a building, that is HR department. Are we out in our community saying, are you, equity, this and that? No. Yeah, but see, that's all, I'm gonna say yoke stuff. It's yoke, and that's an HR thing when you hire people. That's my opinion. And so how I think when I say this, are we providing equality and opportunities
Okay.
that enhance our community?
Yeah, I see Councilmember, so I just want to make sure to honor, did you feel like you shared, you came prepared? I
Yeah.
just want to honor that, and then I want to turn to Councilmember
Yeah.
Morrissey.
Mhm.
Okay, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, I think we should put this on a work study. I think, in my mind's eye, those were guiding principles for a previous council. This is a new council. We may still agree with those ones. I don't know, but I think it's merit to discussion.
So is there a Councilmember Diener, and then we'll,
I'll reiterate what John said.
Okay.
I'm okay with throwing words.
I just want to address, Eric, the only reason I could think it was 30 day work studies happen once a month. And so we're setting constantly a month out looking at agendas, but there's no,
Yeah, so we're sitting there having this discussion, I don't want to waste it after, but go. And I said, well, how much time did you need for us to bring some, I'll pull the video here, it's not a big deal. How much time would you need? And I said like, a week notice, and Noah said, no, we, more than that. Then someone said like, a couple weeks, Noah says, probably need a month in order to get.
I do remember that.
I remember that too.
Yeah.
I think he's referring to.
I don't.
You were out. It was
I don't
late.
agree with that.
No, I'm just trying to understand the concept and
Yeah.
really, I think what he's alluding to, the work studies happen once a month. And so we're not gonna schedule a special work study meeting next
No,
week.
this was
to-
for-
Say
yep.
for departments to come prepared.
Yeah.
But it was not a hard and fast, you can't put something on a work study.
No, it's
Okay,
They
so-
need 30 days.
This
That's
seems like a good
separate.
thing to clarify, with Noah. I'm gonna break in right now and say, we have 19 of these remaining. I've noticed when they get kind of long, it's either you all workshopping the item now, in the moment, or you're talking about the implementation or how it will be done, and I'll just remind you all that this is just about the when. So with that in mind, should we talk about the city administrator?
So I agree, there's one in our future, and, I currently, I know Paulsbo, Mayor Erickson is retiring at end of this year, that's where Paulsbo's going. Gig Harbor has one, they're a smaller city than us, and they have a part-time mayor. When we did our last organizational assessment, the trigger was about 18 to 20,000 people, where you had a full-time mayor, in the capacity that I am, and having a city administrator. We're fastly approaching that. I don't know that it's this budget, but it's probably a future planning effort and preparing, and I'm not perfect, but my 30 years in finance equipped me to do the things that I do in this job. I have many of the skills that an administrator has, and I'm supported by 6 professionals that are directors. And, definitely when I leave office, you don't know what you're gonna get. And you're probably gonna need those skills, in a professional capacity.
Councilmember Roosevelt, Councilmember Diener, and then, Councilmember Warden, and then we'll look at this other, yeah.
Future and planning efforts is where I would put this right now, because this is not a today's or next budget cycle.
Thanks for that, Councilmember Diener.
So I agree that it's a future planning initiative, but we need to start thinking about that now. Not immediately, but real soon. What I was seeking when I posited this was that we would be looking at a hard plan for when this could come into implementation. And one thing I would not want to see is any mayor or a new mayor coming on board, same year we're trying to put a city administrator on board. that's a recipe for disaster. So I would just like to see us think about when that is and how far are we away from hitting a threshold that we need to agree upon before we trip into this position. But I think it's needed. We're growing faster than anybody expected us to go. And I think it's inevitable.
Councilman Warden and then Morrissey.
100%. It's bringing the topic up is not a personal, you would all, I mean, zero. No one, I told everybody, like, you do an amazing job bringing money into the city and doing all you do. You spend like 40+% of your time attending
Outside
outside agency, outside things, because like you stay on your wall, you don't have a seat at the table for the meal, I mean, so you spend a large percent of your time out there doing that. And just sitting here, we're discussing how many more staff members that we need to add, how many projects are going on. I mean, you can only be pulled in so many different directions. And let's say someone with a funny name puts a sign in the ground and there are, that's true, and they're the next mayor. I mean, you don't
It
have,
happens.
you don't have time to plan for a $200,000 employee coming on board. And now you're panicking and you're scrambling to do that right now. That's just not realistic. I think it's a liability to the city to not protect ourselves for something like that. It's absolutely not a shot at you, zero. It wouldn't matter who is sitting there. I expedite a little bit based on who is sitting there, but it has nothing to do. It has to do with the liability that you're putting the city in, not you, the council.
We are.
By not having the protection of having a qualified person that can oversee all the departments, and that's a big bill. That's a solid income right there. That's someone that you're gonna recruit, but it's also someone you can recruit, hire, and terminate as well. So there's, some, protection there as well.
Sure.
But I just feel like you're pulled in a lot of directions, and that's part of the job. But at the same time, almost every topic here is adding staff, is adding personnel. And you can only do so much. I mean, the only full-time person in this room working here.
So Councilmember Morrissey.
I think we gotta find a great balance here because, I didn't even think about Scott saying you don't wanna bring them on at the same time. Because I'm thinking, yes, that was my immediate thought is where does this lie based off of
Yeah, it's
when
natural.
his next.
He doesn't want to run again. That's a great opportunity, but
Yeah, right, but if he does, but again, things that can happen too, right? Like, and not even taking that into account, God forbid he gets hit by a bus, right? He does walk to work regularly.
Or
Right.
moves to Maui.
Or moves, yeah. Yeah, it's possible, yeah, but I think we 100% have to think about this and what this means.
In the next couple of years.
Yeah, and so
let me
I don't know that it has to be in budget, but for the next actual budget.
Yes.
But that hardcore conversation needs to be happening because we may need to be ready January 1, 2027.
And I'll just add that can't happen without establishing milestones or thresholds for when we first begin to talk about this and when we see that horizon coming. Because it won't happen overnight, as we all know.
Let's hear from the mayor, and then I want to put it in a bucket.
You've got 3 years and 8 months for sure with me. And I would recommend, I can't announce anything because then I have to start filing reports with the BBC, but we won't cut the ribbon on the community center in this term. And we've broken the ground. And that is my precious project that I want to see it's our community's, events. And I really want to cut the ribbon on that. That's the mayor. And so I don't see a scenario, but it's 3 years for, filing week is 3 years from now. So it's worth, for sure, I think we need to start planning for it. Talking about it needs to be a topic at next year's retreat.
And
You know, and probably, and it doesn't, I don't think it needs to be in this budget, but it's the budget thereafter that, and I think you're right. You don't know what the outcomes of an election are gonna be, and even to Eric's point, there's only so much capacity, okay? And if we continue on this growth pattern, there just needs to be somebody doing some of this administrative stuff so that I can continue be not just showing up, but engaged in these outside agencies. And so it's in the next minimum 4 years, for sure 6 years. That you guys want to have somebody on staff, and there's a process to get there.
Yeah, Councilmember Chang, Morrissey, and then Ms. Pepe.
I think we definitely need to start talking about it because there needs to be a lot of general awareness in the general public. For example, we had this vote for city manager, and I know city administrator is a different term, but I think we need to clarify to people how different it is, what it is, and does it invoke a change of government?
That vote was also tied to, city charter, if I recall.
Yeah, it was.
And
Because it was a manager position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, manager.
Change.
And I think we need to just, have an
Have
FAQ and just
clarity.
have clarity, yes.
Yeah, because all of a sudden you guys put a budget together that has a $200,000 salary plus benefits in it. What the heck were you guys, if we're not talking about it and planning for it, and then there's no surprise.
Right, and the public gets excited about these high paying.
Or Councilmember Morrissey.
Yeah, so for me, again, I don't think I'm framing these buckets exactly the same as everybody else. I'd like to see this conversation in that budgetary timeframe without allocating any dollars in, I don't see that that's gonna happen in the next 2 years.
That's about, well, that middle bucket is about plugging dollars.
Okay, well then,
So we can be talking about it, it could be, it's planning, we're planning for it and I don't know where it gets funded.
Yeah.
You know,
I'd have to see it funded in 26 budget.
So
Funded for 2026?
Yeah, or 2026.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe had something, and then we'll find a home for this
Well, a
item.
little bit of levity here. When I was on the school board in 2007 to 11, my hope would have been that my name would have been on the plaque going out to build a new school. We haven't built a new school since 1990, I think. So hold on to that thought there for the community center, Mayor. But I just wanted to let you know,
yikes.
yeah, so I just want to let you know that right now. What I do want to let you know is I'm keeping track, and I may be a little bit off on some of these things, and I'm sure I am. But if you put everything into the 25-26 budget right now, you're at 10 positions and over $1 million in
then it
addition.
won't be $1 million.
I understand that. I'm just saying, I said this was rough. But I just want everybody to keep thinking that there's dollars attached to everything that we do. And I'm not trying to be a Cassandra or anything, but I'm just trying to be realistic about what we're talking about when we get through all these 30 items.
So I
That's it.
to figure out where this goes in the bucket here. I've heard Eric wants, like to see it in the current budget.
No.
No, just talk,
Current talk.
Current,
keep the talk going.
Yeah, you're
oh,
talking.
future,
The-
the future and planning efforts is what you're,
Yeah,
I
It's
thought
not
that.
this budget cycle that we're.
Yeah.
but
Okay.
The following.
I heard 2026 for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said 2026, that would be the current budget, the budget we're planning for.
Right.
25, 26.
2 years,
He wants it to
25 and
be-
26.
In the fall, and that's what I'm saying too.
24 is a budget year
It's a little
cycle.
aggressive.
I think he's saying 26 budget year cycle.
Well, that's not it's a 20, it's a biennial budget,
I know,
25 and 26.
we will create that next budget in 26, just as we are creating it in 24.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes, but I'm trying to, so are we talking about the right bucket?
You don't want us to hire in 26, you want us to be planning it for the budget in 26?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so the future and
It
planning.
is future,
Plan.
but
Okay.
in the
I'm
immediate
happy.
next
I
budget.
just, sitting here, it's like, you're like, as for the future, it's like. man,
No,
that's a near.
I just don't want these things pushed.
and
Yeah.
that's why I had changed that bucket, future and
Because
planning.
what I would like to have seen, as I'm sitting here realizing this, is next retreat, if we could get this handed to us the previous year,
Oh, here we go.
right? Then we could look at the items and be like, okay,
Now you're talking dashboards.
these were conversation pieces that were, that,
Mhm.
yeah, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councilmember Trenner, you had one last thing on this item.
Well, no, let's just move forward. Everybody
Okay,
said basically
everyone's
what I
okay
wanted
with
to
future
say.
planning efforts, and I
John
heard a
Morrissey did it-
recommendation that,
said very
that
well.
this will come back next year, and I'm gonna create a summary from today, so you'll get this in a few weeks, and then please, by all means, bring it back the following year.
And then if nothing else too, we recirculate, because the council isn't gonna change between now and your next retreat. Even if it's in, you got it in
Sure.
a month ahead of time. Well, here's the things that that we decided and we said we were planning. Are we
When it,
doing?
when it does come back, I'd like to see a framework of what that looks like, implementation.
Sure.
Okay.
So another position, go ahead.
All right, so Scott put this on there. I would love to have this too, having a full-time public information officer. But when I weigh that against, I want police officers, I need people to mow the grass in the parks. It just doesn't, so we've got a contract person. It's not perfect. It's much better than it used to be, when we didn't have anybody doing that. Josh does good work for us, but it's not a full-time staff.
Councilmember Dean, I know this is
Dean,
yours.
it's his item. He needs to go first.
Well, so my thought was, I don't know that we need a full-time PIO. I don't know that we have the work that would support that, but I think we could definitely support 0.4, 0.5 FTE. And I think that gives us better control over what's going on. I think you commented once that he's got to look at all the work that goes out. You'd have to probably do that anyways,
I
but,
do.
but there's a quality control issue there too. So
I'm not having any concerns with this the
Okay.
quality or it's just assigning it. It's just, it is what it is. It's not a
Yeah.
full-time position.
Right, and also I think this goes to a little bit more than what the current contract is, and that's marketing the city, just in general. And addressing our social media needs and feeds. I think all of that could be rolled into easily at 0.5.
So I'm
That's
hearing
my
that,
thought.
that just what you have listed here, the 150K, that was assuming a full-time position. Okay, so just recognize that your
Yeah, people
suggestion could be
working
slightly different.
virtually for us
Sure.
from home.
Sure, so we have Councilmember Rosa Pepe, anyone else we should get in stack, Trenner and Morrissey, okay.
I think we have a high degree of frustration that, there's two sides to this. One, we're not getting our information out that people are able to see it or are seeing it. My pushback on that is, I think the information's there. I think that people aren't looking for it or calling up to look at it, and the truth is probably somewhere in between. And I would concur that I would put some additional dollars into this. I'm not ready for a full-time, I'm ready for a half-time. And to see where our bang for the buck. You bring statistics back showing that our YouTube has, our hits are going up, how many people look at our website and stuff like that. But I think there's a certain amount of frustration here at the table that we could be doing more. If you looked at me and said, what does more look like? I couldn't tell you.
But I'm going to, because I don't know what that word is.
But I'm saying.
Because I can
But,
task
no,
Josh.
what I'm saying is, so I mean, that we do, but I think there's a certain amount of, yes, we need to put some more into it. So we can try to reach more citizens of our city on our projects. I had again today, I think I already said this, if I didn't, I apologize. When I was at Kiwanis getting beat up about the roundabout downtown and having to educate the guy that it was state, and then having him look at me and said, state? I went, oh yeah, and explain it's a state highway. I know it's just a silly example, but we've all been beaten up by it. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, so then I think we have Morrissey and then Trenner, I believe.
Yeah, I think this should be a priority in the next budget cycle. I'm open to what that looks like. We have changes that we just heard about this week in the laws that govern even social media. I think I'm gonna try and re-articulate what I heard out of Jay. While that information's out there, we need to be meeting the people where they're at, right? To me, it's very easily social media or other places like that, simply saying, it was on our website, it was posted at the work site, like, that's antiquated, right? Or that's like saying, we put it in the paper. How many people here take the paper sitting at this table? Precisely, right?
Which
Like,
one?
well, and I take a digital version, right? Like, so, but I mean, literally a paper. So, yeah, I think that, I would like to see this in the next budget cycle, whatever that manifests itself.
Just have a quick.
Oh, yeah, Trenery, Diener, and then Eric, yeah.
I agree with the three previous comments from the council members. It should be on the 25-26 budget discussions. It does not need to be a full-time position, but we do need to look at increasing and improving our public perception and output.
Great.
Yeah. I saw an interesting example with one city, I was looking at a few, so I don't remember which one it was, but they have a mobile electronic sign that they use, and it'll be for us, it could be like,
I've always wanted.
this is a DOT project, questions, concerns, call this number. This is where, and so you do that for 10 days, because this is all captured traffic, right? It's generally 90% of the same people. It could be, this is the future site of our community event center. Go to our website for more information. So you've got this mobile sign that's moving around for a period of time, 10 days or whatever, capturing that traffic. And so people are about as informed as they can get if they're driving by a future project site.
Councilmember Warden?
So I'm pretty fortunate to work for a group that is very, very, very good at outreach. And I've learned so much over the years that I've become pretty darn good at it myself. It's just so important to have someone that knows how to write, knows how to write literature that you can mail out, you can put with your billing, that you can do social media with, that you know the target audience and who to approach and when to approach them. We have these projects coming up now in Bethel that if we thought one roundabout created chaos, we're gonna have so many questions, so many, mixed with the stormwater rates. A good employee can do it in 4 hours a day. A good employee, 4 hours a day, that knows what they're doing. Most likely telecommutes. But it's an appealing job to a lot of people. And I think that, okay, I work with a place that has part-time employees that they telecommute. And they do a really good job. They put out a lot of work and it's very professional. And it's successful. And the communication that I receive, that I'm the one that has to go to those doors. It's pretty positive.
Yeah.
Part-time employee, I think we can do that.
So I'm hearing some support for a part-time employee in 25-26. Councilmember Chang, Councilmember Fenton, I just haven't heard from either of you. Any thoughts?
Well, I kind of, going off, I'm sorry, going off of, Councilmember Diener about, I like the mobile where you can put something where people can see it. But I also think a reader board where it says, oh, city council meetings, this is what we're gonna talk about. This is, I think, reading something on all kinds of levels of that's going on in our city is a really good too. And that could just be stationary though, because people will know, we get a lot of traffic coming down here back and forth someplace, over here.
Our code
You
would
know?
allow us to put
That's,
it here.
we have a e-signage code.
Yeah, but that's kind of interesting because, the Ford put up.
This grandfather happened was
The
put
Ford was only like 5 years ago. The Ford,
it, yeah, they replaced one that was already there.
We could
Okay,
maybe
so-
look at our sign records.
Yeah.
yeah, we have that, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to add that to something to our list?
We
Look at
could,
this.
that could be something for the future,
Well, I'll
absolutely.
just put that on a list and then Councilmember
Yeah.
Chang, then we'll find a.
Future planning.
I think it would be very easy for council to come up with a job description if that's what you need.
I don't need a job description.
Okay, all right. Well, you just said that you didn't know what the person
No,
would
that,
do.
I was saying, Jay said, I don't know what that looks like, and I said,
Okay.
I'm looking for you to what it is that content you want.
So I heard a
I think you could come
recommendation
up with
from,
some
Content.
yeah, I heard thank you for that. I heard a recommendation that some of you wanted to see a part-time position in the 25-26 budget for consideration. Any concerns with it landing there?
Can we do now? Can we do it sooner?
If there's money
You could
available
probably take
sooner?
that 150 out of there, because it won't. cost
Yeah,
that much for
yeah.
part-time.
Do that.
Do we currently have?
We have a contract, we spend 25,000 a year is the contract. We get to about 20,
No, 25 grand, and it's a part-time employee, so benefits are part-time benefits.
yeah.
And so Councilmember Chang, you said that you were interested in seeing this move up to a now. My
Yeah,
understanding
anyone
of the
else want it
bucket
now?
Is that the now needed to have money available for that, and so it's up to the mayor.
Be coming out of our general fund, you know,
25 grand.
Well, we're probably under contract already for the year,
we do
For
have
its
a
current
contract, we have a
contract.
contract.
so I'm okay with it being next budget cycle.
Yeah.
I would love for it, but it's gonna take him time
And we
to
already
get that
have-
done, but I'm hoping that he can be ready in January when we have a budget to be
Government
utilized.
does not move fast enough.
Yeah,
And you guys haven't gotten to prioritize it. either.
Councilmember, are you okay with it living in 25, 26 for now?
I still am a now person, but I'm outvoted.
Oh, yeah,
No,
we have our business.
Yeah, you all
Still
have a chance to prioritize.
Still have to
this.
prioritize.
But register that this, it feels like a now to you, and so we can come back to that. Okay, so then this is another Councilmember Diener suggestion. Go ahead, Mayor.
But, you know, I spoke a little bit to this already, that, it's gonna be an expensive proposition, probably just the street lighting alone is well over $1 million to, you know, and we need to underground the power, when we do this. I think it's realistic to, you know, is a long-range plan, in particular to do this in quadrants. Because I believe the south side of Bay Street is gonna be around a lot longer than the north side of the Bay Street, which is all on pilings. Eventually, those buildings will just start sinking and it'll take care of itself, what has to happen with those buildings, but, you know, of course, we wanna replace it, it's extremely expensive. And it's nearly $1 and cents. We can't just take the marquee off. We need to work with the property owners, because our code says they need, you know, our code requires weather protection.
Yeah, so my intention for this discussion item was not about the marquee.
Oh,
It was
Or
about.
underground.
I'm sorry, the marquee is on here somewhere, I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, Myries, I'm sorry, I'm
we're all
confused.
going like this.
So I'll just lead off.
I'm
with
sorry.
What I was thinking was, I think that burned down in 2012-ish, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it was a cornerstone of the community.
Mhm.
And it is sad, and I know we went after the landowner. They indicated they had no intentions to moving this along quickly. It was an investment for their daughter. Correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but
I'm not the dollar, but it's a holding company.
It's a
not-
holding-
And he's not a developer.
yeah, and he's not a developer. But a lot of time has passed since our last outreach to the holding company. And I'd like us to see if we could reach out to them and say, look, there are exciting changes that are coming to downtown. And if you want to be a part of that, now's the time. But I'd also would like to look to see if there's any other new tools that have been developed either legislatively by the state in terms of, you know, requiring development to happen sooner. I know it probably doesn't rise to the level of a nuisance, which would trip a different set of actions altogether. But I think it's worth going after this and looking at this some more and reaching out to the holding company and saying, look, regain your foothold in the county, sorry, in the city. So anyways, that's where I was headed with this.
Okay, so I'll give you a little.
The task force is what I was
Yeah.
looking for.
So there's good and the bad to what's, so we've got a master plan for downtown, in particular that block. The unfortunate thing is one person who doesn't really care about our community owns 60% of our downtown. The beautiful thing is when I met with him previously, it was just he is not going to put significant dollars.
When was
in
that?
it. When I started, 6 years ago, when I started the community center project, he's just not interested. He's waiting for a large check. And I believe so I turned my attention to the other quadrant of downtown and trying to create opportunity. Because when we start realizing and developing and the parking, find a developer, do the parking structure and the residential, somebody's gonna go, I want that. I'm on board with that master plan, and they're gonna write him a check and he's gonna go away. Okay? I knew this question was coming. I've asked the attorney and she says, no, she lives in Sammamish. She goes, got the same thing going on in Sammamish. And she goes, got people that are buying up and actually buying up, they want because they want the write-off. They're not leasing the buildings. And she says, other than condemnation And for us to prevail in condemnation,
That's a tough call.
yeah, we have to have a project and a public purpose for it.
So Councilmember Diener, if I could just understand, you said a task force, is that kind of what you're asking for with this item, or it could be anything?
Well, the task force was more about meeting with the holding company and actually getting them to come over here and walk the area and show them what we've got coming up in terms of our improvements downtown and seeing if that would move the needle at all.
It won't. He is not gonna develop anything.
Okay, Councilmember Morrissey?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in just if the task force, if they don't meet that way or have success in that capacity, exploring what mechanisms would be available to us in I don't know, the legalities of a blight tax, or saying, hey, if you don't have an occupancy permit, we're gonna charge XYZ dollars per year.
Okay, I'll get the attorney to write us a white paper on it.
Yeah,
That doesn't exist in our state laws. We can't do that.
and maybe that task force then goes to work in Olympia,
Okay.
advocating, and
We
doing
can-
some of the work that we
we
do,
can put our-
so- because we know what we need.
We can
to
make
be
that a part of our
successful.
legislative priorities.
Councilmember Fenton and then Chin, please.
Yeah. And yeah, see, I don't understand. I always was trying to advocate, but it gets shut down. But as city council, we have that authority that we can put in ordinance. We can put in stuff, and I don't see how we can't change that. So here, this building down there that's been empty for,
Doesn't.
so, yeah. And
Yeah.
then I don't understand why we can't say, okay, if you don't occupy it or rent it out, then you have to sell. Like you have to sell now,
I don't know
not,
about snow, but
you
you
know.
can at least tax.
So it sounds like,
or
yeah,
fee.
A little background here. So we're a code city. We can do anything. So we were a second-class city. As a second-class city, we could only do what was expressly written in state law.
Mhm.
As a code city, we can't, we can do anything that the state law is silent on. It doesn't prohibit. And I'm happy to have the city attorney, I've already talked to her about it. She says, you can't do, she's already told me, we can't do this. So,
Councilmember Fenton, do you feel like you got your point across, or before I move to Councilmember Chin?
Yeah, I do, but I just don't understand that. we
Much
don't
of
have
this
that
Is gonna
capacity.
be shaped by our existing RCW and
State laws.
case law as well.
I guess I would just look very carefully at all the properties that are 60% owned and see that they are currently being not maintained. But for example, I heard at one time that there was storage and we don't allow storage on Bay Street. So maybe we should start looking into things like that.
It's-
and I'm
it's-
not aware of any storage on Main Street.
Yeah, at one point I heard that there's medical. One of
It's
the,
it's in the upper story of it.
Is it or is it not?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
We don't have the
So this
authority.
is a rumor.
We don't have the authority unless there's a code enforcement and public safety is really our only tool, and the buildings aren't in that disrepair that we get, like Crawford and other
right,
places
right,
where we've
right.
got.
It'd be hard to argue blight with that, the way they've addressed it.
Yeah,
And I'm happy to have the attorney write us a paper.
Councilmember Warner, and then let's find.
The sad part is that, that Myers building is the only one that has some fresh paint on it, you know?
And I got him to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, they're actually,
That was
it's
my-
actually the one that has fresh paint
Yeah.
on it, that looks the best boarded up. It's true, that's,
It's an accurate
So-
statement.
and that's what is, frustrating to me, because when I go, they say it, I go through Waldo. It reminds me of like what Josephine's has and what Revival across the street has, even that brings and things is nice, that brings things, bookstore, the brick house, the market, those are nice. And then it's the rest of it, then I'm like, man, we just have, we have the Myers, throw some paint on it, it looks better than what these buildings are with the paint falling off it. So I get that that's a sore spot for everyone, because it is for me too, I don't like big buildings. But if there was just something to do to get that ordered.
Yeah.
So I want to locate this into a time frame. It sounds like there's a discussion that could happen. The city attorney could write a white paper to say what is really, what can the city council do? Is this a now, next, future thing? What do you think?
I'd like to
I like
propose
the
it as a now.
Me too.
Yeah.
Move down the road now.
These don't cost money, are like.
What's that?
These don't cost money.
Yeah,
I would like for them to be.
yeah. Here's what I advocated when he put lipstick on the pig, to tear it down. I wanted it tore down, and he put $40,000 or $50,000 into putting plywood up and shoring the building up, and he wouldn't have spent much more than that to just tear it down, put some park benches and some grass.
No, I'd like to see
But
it
I couldn't convince him to do it.
Well, and to Heidi's comment, has the fire marshal or fire chief gone through and looked at whether that building could be reoccupied? I know that's part of why it closed down, is they never finished the interior renovation, and there was,
There was
So-
never, there were never any plans.
You all are starting to have the conversation now.
yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I want to get you out of here by 3 and we're not on track for that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about, Councilmember Chang, this was yours, discussion of 1406 funds, current year funding. Mayor, one of you.
Um,
1406.
yes, okay, so I know Fred's got heartburn about how we allocate our $1406, and so I'll tell you what $1406 are. $1406 are a sliver, it equates to $60,000 a year that we get from the state that we have to use for subsidized housing. We can subsidize people's rent with it. And we can use it for, in projects for low-income individuals, and we have to quantify that, and there's a process to go to make repairs to homes, okay? I very much want, to provide subsidized rent. And we've had a contract in the past with Kitsap Homes of Compassion, to rent, they would manage and lease a house. And we could fund their operations with this. They've been looking for years for somebody to rent a house. The house has to be in the city of Port Orchard to spend these dollars, and they just simply can't. They've got a number of houses throughout the county. They just can't find anybody that will rent them. And it needs to be a 4 or 5 bedroom house. It needs to be a big house, because I got somebody living there, managing it. I'm hopeful, and I haven't seen their business plan yet, that a Mike House up here on DeKalb will qualify for our funding. They're gonna house young people from 18 to 28 is their, but the one of the caveats to this fund is low income. So until they get up and running, we get this money every year, and I don't have any way to spend it. And so we've been about every other year, I go to Housing Kitsap, we authorize that in this budget. We've got a group of $42,000 worth of projects to seniors and low-income folks, they're all low-income, to repair roofs, windows, decks, so that we can keep low-income people that have a home in their home. And so Fred wanted this on the agenda. There's a contract with Housing Kitsap that's coming forward in the next couple of meetings. I just want to talk about it. So-
Councilmember Chang, yeah, from your
Yeah,
perspective.
no, I appreciate the efforts that you've taken with this. And my argument is that instead of subsidizing an individual's house, even though they're low income, I would prefer that funding go to maybe rental assistance. And I know the KCR wasn't able to help us because our conditions are that it has to be rents within the city. There are groups like.
It's not our conditions, it's
Okay,
state law.
okay. Well, First Lutheran has a group that is a 501c3 that could help with rental assistance. It's called Kitsap Community Fund. So I would urge that we consider something like that as opposed to fixing an individual's roof.
And I welcome proposals from anywhere, because that's what we should be doing with this money is providing rent subsidies.
Inside the city.
It has to be inside the city.
Well, currently, sorry.
But Councilmember Morrissey's been
Yeah,
waiting for a few
yeah, go
minutes.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, maybe going down the same road, as a former KCR board member, like, they do rental assistance. Am I understanding that they're saying, we don't get any requests from our city to their, because they run
They haven't
the
submitted a
housing intake
proposal. They have not
solution for the
sub-
county,
They have
right?
not submitted this proposal to me for this funding. The only proposal I've ever gotten is the one from Kitsap Homes of Compassion. And
So I
then,
guess I'd be curious on what happens when somebody who already lives here, like, most people are trying not to have to get out of their current situation and finding.
this is not a program that we manage. We don't have the capacity to manage and verify. It is.
KCR does this work already.
Yeah,
If
and
we can provide our funding to them
yeah,
to manage that in our city.
I've not served on their board. I have heard that they have funding and then they have significant staffing challenges to deploy funding. But if they could utilize our dollars and we could, you know, we get this pot of dollars every year. And it's part of our budget. And I would love to deploy it into rental assistance to low income.
Knowing that, one quick follow-up question, that pot of money then, since we haven't been able to expend it, is it use it or lose it? Or
No,
have we grown and now we have a set dollar amount where,
no. It comes every year. We've got some dollars and that's why.
oh, we got like a 500,000 now and we
No,
can
no,
go
no,
buy a house
no,
and stuff? Okay. Okay.
Councilmember Warden.
Wait, any brand topic on this, learning something new, you know, so I appreciate that. So are we gifting that to other agencies to use outside of the city of Orchard?
We
Not
can't,
outside.
we can't, but I have less than $100,000. I'm confident of that. It's probably 70 or 80, I don't know, off the top of my head, what they got, but we get 60,000 every year. And I struggle to deploy the dollars, is what I'm saying. And I've got Housing Kitsap is their clients are eligible participants. They manage the funds, manage the process. We have a contract that I'm about ready to bring before you guys to fix roofs, windows, siding
Maybe we, are
for about
the
42,000.
outreach person we're gonna hire.
Yeah.
Make it work.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
No, just to move the discussion along, we're trying to solve something again, then we're trying to figure out what bucket it goes in. I would say now, put it in now, we're waiting for more information back from the mayor because Fred's given another source, so wait.
I didn't even know it needs to be on your list. I welcome proposals.
So let's,
You know,
yeah,
somebody
put it-
can use our-
Send them your way.
put it
Send it my way.
now and move on, thank you.
Put it
Yeah.
on. So I,
Good call.
no recommendation for now, under the way it was discussed, it was current year funding. Any concerns with this being listed under now? Looking around the room, we're okay with that?
And there is any heartburn, I know Fred doesn't like it, but any heartburn, we've already funded it in our budget. And they have reached out to a handful of individuals that are expecting this contract to be awarded to repair their
Moving
homes.
forward, I mean,
Do something
Look at
different.
the other source.
Yeah.
That's what we're
Okay.
looking for.
Can I just also just share something with respect to the Mile Hill Pacific Shelter, they're calling it?
Yeah,
There was a housing outreach that occurred at Central Kitsap maybe a week ago. And it was made clear by the county commissioners that were in attendance that that's gonna be used for all county homelessness needs, which we had thought was not necessarily gonna be the case at the outset, but then we're suspicious that it was going to be, and now it's been affirmed.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing up this topic to follow up.
Then the next one, this is already in the works, matter of fact, Mark. I mentioned this to Dennis, and I guess the county is taking the lead on this and is gonna work with something like a similar program to the state's Adopt a Road program. The county so this is in its infancy. Our Public Works has been meeting with their folks to create
We skipped a
a.
couple.
You did?
Well,
Create a
yeah.
road cleanup. Oh, the government etiquette was what the mayor talked about.
We
Yeah,
did. We did.
Yeah.
And then we did the
Yeah.
guiding principles.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
See, I've been checking them off.
Yeah, I just
fair enough. fair
didn't
enough.
know.
Mark Advocate, he says, we need to have a road cleanup program like similar to the state and creating the tool and the methodology gave me pause, but I understand that our Public Works Department is already in discussions with the county about creating such a program. So.
Councilmember Turner, do you want to add to that?
I do. One of the things that I don't like about government coming from the private sector is it takes longer than it does to move things along.
Then it should.
But we also add levels of
Bureaucracy.
Thank you, bureaucracy, that was the word I was trying to get out of my brain. Can be a very simple program, and we have citizens that are doing it already on their own. And I think it's really important to award them with improving our ability to support them at this. I see people all throughout the city walking their dogs, picking up not only dog excrement, but also cans and these kind of things. They want to help. There's been some outreach with folks both online and personally that are saying, can't you guys just give us some bags? Just provide some bags. And I've gone to Lowe's and bought bags. There you go, there, you have some bags. It's not that much of a cost. And it's a very good look at the city to support the citizens who want to support our city by beautifying it as best they can. I'm not trying to buy paint to put on old pig, lipstick on an old pig. We're just trying to keep our city clean.
So Mark, and I don't disagree with anything you've said. And I'm thankful that people walk around and pick up trash in our community. But the moment we start formalizing this, then we've got to have rules because our insurance company is going to require it of us. Because the moment that, I know when we pick up trash, out on the side of the road, we can't have minors out there with us doing it. And there's certain rules that we have to follow because we're walking in the right of way and we have to be careful.
Our citizens are doing that anyways.
But they're doing it on their, we haven't formalized that process and made it part of a city program. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's where it changes and then we become liable when something happens.
Comes that bureaucracy again.
Yeah, well, so we're in a litigant world we live in.
So Councilmember Morrissey, Fenton, and then Warner.
100% agree. I would also say, give credit, we're doing our community cleanup effort on the 27th. I have reached out, I actually owe my HOA a note. I was supposed to get it to them. They're interested. They have a meeting Monday so that they can hopefully get everybody interested to help us clean that day. But brought up the topic with, can we do something more ongoing? And I said, happy to hear that because I think further discussions are ongoing. As there's a couple that live kind of category from, and they leave their house every day on their walk with a bag in their hand to pick up the stuff up and down Feigley Road there, going out to Old Clifton. So I'm all for that. If we got to put out some rules, I think rules are just like anything else. They're only enforceable if somebody's complaining, right? So even if you have things operating outside of it, let's set those rules, go out and do it and say that we've checked that off the box. That's my 2 cents. I would also say, this is a now thing.
So Councilmember Turner, okay. Okay, so I think.
It is an out thing, it's an out.
Fenton, and who was next, and then Warner, and then I see Rosa Pepe, so Fenton, please.
Yeah. Oh, and I like, the idea of the citizens helping out. You know how you have, the poop bags for the dogs that are sitting there? Well, maybe we could have like the same concept, but bigger bags and say, feel free to pick up any litter. And then they can grab one of those and, pick up litter right then and there.
I think that goes to the liability issue that Rob was speaking.
Well, and if we could do it, well, what about the
Different.
liability to taking a smaller bag? So you got a smaller bag and then you got a bigger bag.
And what if it breaks?
Well, so one is just
We're-
a dog bag, that's, I think, what you're.
Well, yes, and this could
That's a
still
little
be.
I-
I was just thinking of it, so it's more free, easy access for people to,
Yeah.
help out.
Councilmember Warner.
Yeah.
So, our solid waste department at the county, Scott and myself try to say county too often, because Bill wants to hear that all the time. But, man, I'm telling you, every Friday out front of our office, we have 100 grabbers, boxes of bags, vests, signs. And organizations show up because they sign up to pick those up. They take those, they do road cleanup, they do all of this, and they leave the bags. Our departments drive by and pick up the bags and take them to the landfill
They're doing that on their own.
on their own. Well, it's a regular basis. There are groups that organize it, they do it up, and it's kind of like our social media concerns that we have by not allowing comments on there. I'm not repeating that, what I'm saying is, what are our neighbors doing that is allowing them practices that we're
Saying we can't do it.
saying we can't do, right? Our neighbors are giving out vests, you check them out, vests, growlers, bags to groups that sign up for them, they turn in their information. What are we doing that's different than them? I don't know, like, I suggest on this topic, maybe we reach out to our neighbors, the other cities and county and say, what are you guys doing different? That relieves liability from you, because you guys are doing these
Yeah.
programs. Maybe we can piggyback off of that.
So what I've heard is when things are for discussion to figure out what your partnering or neighboring jurisdictions, that has fallen into the now camp so far.
I can assure you, we're doing, it's in the works. We're gonna do this and we're partnering with the county on it. So
So-
whatever they're doing and how they're doing it and the structure, when I talked to, I knew this. So, this is in the works. I can't tell you how quickly it's happening because, you know, I know, I brought this up to Dennis. Hey, what do you think about this? How can we do it? Cause I saw it on the
Just
agenda.
deal with it now. It doesn't
Yeah,
cost.
it totally,
Yep.
it's gonna happen
I dropped it in the now.
in the next
solution.
90, 120 days.
We said the next one's already been covered, or is that the same?
That's kind of related to what. Mark-
It's
PIO,
already been covered.
PIO.
Already been
I
covered.
would like to just do an add-on real quick on that, and I know it's,
Which one?
about public information.
Okay.
Just for us later, when we got ready to do a copy of this council last week, I'm breaking the rules, so go, Sophie, sorry. Called Brandy and said, hey, do we have any public information that we can hand out to the public? Her and Janine are working on that. So as we get forward to other coffees or go down to the set up at the market, they're working on that. That doesn't have to be put on here. I just was adding that to, our tool bag, so to speak.
Since you touched that too, on the farmer's market, we did a booth a handful of times last year, and we intend to do that again this summer, and it'll be planning and the comp plan, 1 month, it'll be the engineering group with transportation projects, and it'll be, and so I'll
And that
communicate.
schedule will be at the booth as well.
I don't know about, we'll,
Might be helpful.
we'll put it out, out there and communicate with you guys, but only can have 3 of you down there at a
Yeah.
time.
I think the train, along this lines again, I know we're off topic.
It's okay, we're doing
And
okay.
off target. Along this lines, I think transportation stuff is always important to have out down there.
Yeah.
It was,
We got so much good feedback during
when
those.
we had the big whiteboards down there with our road
It's huge.
projects. And we had more people coming by our booth than any other time and have the engineers down there.
So I don't want to hit delete on anything. It sounds like this was touched on before. Is this like nested under the PIO? So let me just make that as,
You can.
Yeah, just delete Mark.
Delete it.
delete it?
Yeah,
Okay.
please, Mark.
It's happened before.
Public comment's mine, and I serve on a number of boards and agencies, and when I go, it's your meeting. I don't care if it's 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, but I'm tasked with enforcing your guys' rules, and that way I need to do them uniformly, okay? When you testify at the legislature, you get 1 minute and the microphone's turned off. When you testify at most of the other agencies I'm on the boards, you get 2 minutes and the microphone goes dead. You don't get a second more. I believe I do provide a little bit of grace. I let people finish their sentence when the red light's on. But I think it's really important. Whatever that time frame is, tell me what it is, and we need to enforce it uniformly, because we dodged a bullet with the mentally ill guy that missed, he spaced out or whatever he did, and we ended public comment. If we didn't give him extra time too, it would have been, it could have been ugly. And so I just ask that we be uniform and just tell me what the rules are and I'll enforce them.
Great. Rosa Pepe and then Diener and then Worden.
Oh, I said we'll eliminate this because it's 3 minutes is what we have. I will not sit for any comment longer than 3 minutes, especially where any of you, staff or the mayor, are personally attacked. And then someone asks for additional time to finish their thoughts. And I'm being very adamant about this. 3 minutes is more than enough to get your comments through. We've had people that have come and testified regarding school bonds, talk about a hot issue. I'm thinking about the South Kitsap Fire and Rescue that have been extremely respectful, been able to get their comments in under 3 minutes. I think we're setting a bad precedence.
So I just wanted, did you also want to speak, Councilor?
Oh, sure.
And no, but I think we'll do an order. I just wanted to make sure I saw your face. So Councilmember
yeah.
Diener.
Well, so I just was gonna iterate that, the council has 2 minutes and then you start to hear chimes. And so it becomes harder for you to convey your message when there's chimes going on. But I think 3 minutes is adequate. And I think that if somebody has more than 3 minutes, that they need to send us written comments and then just summarize those. But we've got something in writing we can look at. And I'm with Jay. I think 3 minutes should be enforced equitably and we shouldn't allow some to speak longer than others.
Yeah, how many times has, like, in the last 5 years, has that happened? Where
We only have one party that pushes the rules.
okay, so,
Well,
Well,
I did have, once during my pro temp,
You did.
You had
I
somebody,
He
had
did.
somebody
Yeah, I wasn't
go,
He allowed it. And
can't remember who that was,
Mhm.
but
But I'll say that we constantly hear people that have to be reminded your time is up.
yeah,
okay. It's been one instance where we gave extra time. And I'm just saying, that's a bad precedence. Let's enforce
Yeah.
tell me what the rules are. I'll enforce whatever the rules are. That's all. I'm asking.
And you don't need to figure out the rules right now.
Right.
So Councilmember Fenton.
I agree and I disagree. 3 minutes,
Yeah.
yes, is very adequate and you can get what you want in 3 minutes. Sometimes one person is just finishing a sentence and I think it's very rude on our part. Ooh, your 3 minutes are up and there are just having just a little teeny bit more. I think you're creating more of a frustration on the constituent when they just have just a couple of 5 or, and you can say to them, you got to wrap it up and really mean that and stick with that. But I remember watching, I was online, this elderly lady, she came in and she really wanted the tree to stay at, someplace over there. And I think you guys listened to her and you said, yes, that tree can stay. But she was up there talking and then all of a sudden, your 3 minutes is up and she's like this. Oh, what? But she wanted to just, give some piece of paper to someone. And she just felt frazzled because it was just, your 3 minutes are up, boom. And so to me, these are our constituents. We should have a little bit more grace. And so she sat down, but, she wanted to wrap it up and hand out a piece of paper, but she couldn't.
So let me just observe a couple things. I think this is where a code of conduct for people that are coming in and testifying would be helpful. So a written set of guiding principles. But also when somebody says, oh, I'm about to wrap it up, we don't really know what that means. For some people, they'll just keep going until you
Well,
force.
and you do gotta put down the law.
Right.
I mean, boom, and I get that. I do.
So, I would say that we do something like cut the mic or chimes or something like that, maybe at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. I mean, that's given the grace.
You
that
need to cut the mic.
Maybe Councilmember Morrissey.
Yeah, so I don't want to cut any mics, right? But I do think 3 minutes is accurate or adequate. Again, just as you guys have the county, I have Bremerton experience. You got to sign in at the back of the room with your name and address and stuff, where it tells you right there, you're going to have 3 minutes. So one, nobody should be caught off guard. Know the rules for when you're coming. So the tree lady needs to know, like, she can't just come in here and talk to us for 30 minutes.
Well, and I think she
we're not-
realized that. People realize that.
We're not employees really of the city either, so we want to respect each other's time, right? It would be my ask that you let it go to red and you say, your time's up, please finish that sentence. And then we can cut 'em off.
You've observed what I do.
And you do a pretty good
The
job.
red
It's just-
light comes on, and I don't even say anything until they finish their sentence. It's when they start the next sentence.
Yeah,
Is
and
when
I think if you did that, you avoid that. Which I get, like, then you're interrupting and that can be a whole thing too, but I would just say, for me, I would finish that thought, that sentence, and I don't wanna say thought because somebody's thought could ramble on for 18 pages. But finish that sentence and thank you for your comment.
I'm good with current practice, just to clarify. I'm not-
I'll second that.
Councilmember
Because that's what you're doing now,
Warren, and I
right?
wanna
Is
find the
finish
bucket.
your sentence and I'm good with that too.
Situation again, I'm just gonna say, I think Margaret went, when it was going too long, saying, you know, you please wrap it up, you know, that handled it real well.
Yep.
My question is, I don't know, it kind of bothers me, I'm sitting up there and we're going through having conversations and it's 2 hours and 15 minutes into the meeting. And then we go over the mayor's report, right, and you're going, oh, what, no, on this date, which is kind of cool stuff, you know? But there's one person out in the audience who's been sitting, you know, for almost 2.5 hours to get up there for their 3 minutes. Is there a way that we could possibly take those comments, and we're gonna listen to them regardless? Is there a way those comments don't have to be on the bottom, we can
oh, yeah.
slide those up in the meeting?
So we could easily move those ahead of the director's reports and the mayor's report. The way that
like
it's
that.
structured right now, though, with a comment period, we used to have, particularly during political season, you know, the elections, we get all kinds of people that come and use the 3 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. And so that's why it's structured the way it is. The first comment period, you gotta be talking to an item on our agenda. And then, but we could put citizen comment ahead of
Well,
the mayors and the directors.
So you
I
may-
don't care.
you may remember, sorry, I'll just follow up. on
Okay,
this.
and then
Years ago, when I was brand new, I'd advocated for moving all public comment to be allowed up front because we're gonna hear it anyways.
Mhm.
And so are we making people wait for an hour or two, or are we just gonna
Executive
entertain them and
So
they get to go home?
Councilmember
Yeah.
Rosa Pepe, but then I wanna say, this seems like a great conversation that you're having to figure out what are your public comment norms, and it's not for the moment.
But
So Councilmember Rosa Pepe,
Unfortunately, I feel like it's an important one to have, that we've been putting it off for
Okay.
too long. I would move it forward so that people don't have to stay for the whole meeting. However, I would not move it to the beginning, because the fact is, we have an agenda. When discussions become politicized, personal attacks, etc., it takes away our focus from the work that we need to do with the agenda. So I have no problem. I think that's a nice consensus. I hate the word I don't like compromise.
you don't like.
Concession?
Compromise means somebody gave something up. I'm not giving anything up. I like the proposal the mayor made about moving it forward before department, reports. And I could live with that. And that would satisfy everybody's interest. And that's my comment.
So is there consensus then that we would keep this public comment period, the same
No.
practice? There's not,
There's not.
Scott wants it per period.
I would like it up front because again, we're gonna listen to it and we've got
Oh.
thick skin, we can get past the insults.
Mhm.
But that's just.
It's your meeting, I'll do whatever you guys want to do,
I
I'm
would
just,
support it up front too.
I'm not, because I don't want to rehash. all of us.
Okay.
I don't want to rehash all this again, later.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
the reason it went to because we only had one public comment period before, and we had a whole bunch of bad behavior. That people were hijacking your guys' business meeting, okay? And you were spending 30+ minutes listening to a whole bunch of people before you get to your first business item.
So I go back to guiding principles and then also saying, look, if you're just gonna repeat what somebody has also said, just come up and say, I concur with Joe.
Can't do that.
But they don't do that, Scott.
I know, but
I don't think you can because it's,
No.
it's freedom.
Can we build some additional consensus and say we try it this way, and if we don't like
yeah.
it, we revisit?
That's,
I lived through that before. I've lived through that on the school board council. I'll move it. My position is I'll move it up, but I won't sit for it at the beginning.
Yeah, but we don't even
I'll come.
have that many.
Do we have
people.
four that
We
want
don't
to
even-
take it?
That's,
Yeah,
that's,
We don't even
that's
have
up
that
to you. You
One
have
thing
four.
above the department head at least in the
Yeah,
mayor.
department heads.
Yeah,
That's what I'm advocating for, is moving
I'll
it
make
up.
a motion.
Well, I was gonna say,
No.
I don't know under, I mean, this is.
Yeah.
We can't, we
I was
can't,
gonna say, I don't think you guys can make it.
Okay, is there-
I'd like to go with Scott's, let him get it all done at the front.
Yep.
Let's do Scott's idea first.
Scott,
I guess, love,
Let's try it.
Try it. I'm not saying it has to be set in stone. I'd like to try it. I have
that's
seen,
gonna have to happen with, because it's in our.
Yeah,
I can count
it's in our
on these
code.
many
We have to
fingers,
Amend our code.
how many people.
Yeah, it's defined in our code, and so back, where's that in the?
with what your city attorney is exploring or.
Yeah, no, the ordinance for, yeah, and add to that,
Plus public comment.
move
Yeah.
public comment. One public comment period at the beginning of the meeting.
So I didn't hear that there's total agreement with
There's four.
that,
four.
but are you allowed to, are you
We're not
allowed to
voting.
decide?
It's a straw poll.
Okay,
You're-
I just
It's
want
not
to
a vote.
protect.
Oh,
your-
I gotta go because we haven't changed.
Not a vote, not a,
When-
okay,
when
Ask
the code
him to
brought
bring it
forward,
to
there's
us.
a vote. So I
okay,
would-
great.
I wouldn't say move, I would say,
Add that
one
to the
public
scope.
comment period at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, we can't change anything until we do it by vote.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to protect you all in case
Yeah.
there was a perception of
No,
something
no.
happening.
Somebody may change their mind between now and then.
That's
Mine.
fine, that's fine, I just.
They might, they're still
I've
gonna
been,
pass.
I've been well trained to
My-
guard
my-
against that.
Why I put it on there was, we gotta be consistent in how we.
Yes.
But I will say, and just don't be surprised, the first person that attacks any of us or staff or the mayor, you'll see me walk out. And I'll come back, and I'll come back in when public comment is finished.
no,
Just
you
be
can't do
forward.
that.
Yeah.
Why not? He can.
I can.
Again.
Nothing's,
They did it in Bremerton.
Yeah, you got a bunch of that.
Uh-huh.
You're left official. If someone's sitting there calling you.
Yep.
Oh,
We gotta move on.
yeah.
All right, folks.
We got a lot to cover.
Yep, you got 11 more and it's taking you
Okay,
6.
John wants dashboards, so you gotta tell us what dashboards are, John.
so dashboards in my world is how I run my business. So that I can look at any given point to see how we're tracking in different areas. We have many different projects and so many moving parts. And I'd love to be able to just at a glance know, hey, we're making this progress as we go outside of waiting once a quarter, once every 6 months for an update, that if there's just something that's built there. And then I said it earlier, what topic were we talking about when we said we're getting towards dashboard?
Oh, yes, I heard you, but yes.
Oh, wasn't the police one?
So is it electronic or is it printed?
So mine's electronic, right? So there's inputs that go in and the amount of revenue versus time spent and how efficient somebody is. I'm not 100% sure how that would actually come out, because I don't know where that data is getting pulled from.
I have no methodology to create anything like that, and I have 6 different operations that,
So, and
are virtually all independent.
so
So
the
this is
other
the end of this,
side
yeah.
of that is, and I quit taking count at lunch, but before lunch, we had 16 different times where we talked about capacity being an issue. When capacity is an issue for me, we have to look at how do we streamline and get efficiency built out. I would like to see some type of an initiative, whether it's we go through and, at the chamber, we're going EOS implementation on how do we ensure that what the mayor's doing, Scott's not doing the same thing, and Mark's not doing the same thing concurrently without them knowing it. And we've had these conversations throughout the entire organization.
We talked about that, you and I did. When I
Yeah.
brought up the Kaizen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys do something at the county too.
Yeah, every one of DCD's employees is required to have a Lean Six Sigma yellow belt, which means each one of them can spot inefficiencies. And then the Kaizen is the actual method to address that, where you map out current state and desired state, and you go from there.
No, Councilmember, is that different from the dashboard initiative? Should we add that?
They can be kind of one and the same, because that's what I'm pulling out of my dashboard, is where
Okay.
we're not meeting these efficiencies or trying to find them.
And then I'll just say that we, DCD up the hill, again, I hate to say county, but that's where I'm drawing
Those
from.
people.
Those people,
Up the hill.
we have lots of dashboards with our permit review. They're pretty intensive and we have a full-time person and a half that works those. Because there's a lot, we communicate a lot more data than I think what you're probably talking about, but it can be intensive. And so I would think that if we wanted to move this into a planning stage, we'd want to first identify what is it that we want to be able to show the public that we're monitoring in real time.
So
Yeah.
where I can say where we are going is Public Works and Asset Management, which is gonna give us a management tool. DCD has their software and their implementation processes. The police department is pretty archaic right now because we're waiting on the new electronic records system that the county is gonna implement, which is gonna get us a little more automated. But right now, it's manual processes to gather his what the crime statistics.
Yeah.
They're manual processes and it's just.
Well, again,
It doesn't.
how do we not make that manual, right? So
It's-
in my world, you have Microsoft has Power BI, there's AI tools and things that we can implement.
In the police world, it's called CGIS. I can't just plug Microsoft's tool into into the computer systems that the police use, okay? It's regulated by the FBI. That's why I can't take people down in the police, we can't. You guys, your key cards don't work down in the police.
No, but I know that other municipalities are using some of these.
So what I do know is there's an electronic record system that's coming. And the county's the lead on that project and it's countywide. And it feeds in through 911 and all that. So we will have better data and better means to quickly gather that data. It just doesn't exist today. And it's,
Yeah, and then
it's in process. Same way with the court, we're beholden to the state and the electronic system that they're implementing.
Can I just point out, there's a gap in our discussion, not knowing what we want to actually measure just yet.
Correct.
So Councilmember Roosevelt had
Yes.
his hand up a moment ago. Let's do that. And then Councilmember Trenary.
I think Scott just hit the main point. What do we want to measure and how are we going? And my point would be, how do we want to display it? In some cases, Nick gives us information that if it was thrown in a graph, might be a different way of display. I would take this, we're at 1:30. I would take this and move this in the future and planning effort, because it's not something we want to do now, but it's definitely something we want. But it's probably not a budget item unless we think it's going to take another
Because I
person.
don't
We
know what that
that
is.
right now.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going.
Dashboard means anything to us in government. So what data?
Yes, I would say,
What do we need to call this? So
Analytics.
data analytics?
yeah, that analytics.
Yeah, that's another good term for
So
it. The dashboard is just how that
Is
is
presented.
presented, but it's,
That's
yes.
the front end to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So curious for you all, this is about an hour left of content here. We would still be okay if we took a 5-minute break now? Do you feel that
Yeah.
y'all had lunch? Okay,
Yes.
beautiful. Let's take a 5-minute break if that's okay with you, Mayor. Does anyone want more coffee?
No.
No, I'm okay.
Everyone's okay on the
Smoke
coffee
meat.
caffeine front?
I don't
Okay,
think so.
very good. Come back 1:38.
Seems like all my items get over there.
Did you notice that? Maybe you just sent them in at the end.
No.
My items are all